Welcome, babies, beetles, and Bible thumping soldiers, to episode 512 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 18th of May 2024, and featuring for the first time ever a triple feature of stories. Because we will be covering Space
2024.
Babies and The Devil's Chord, which were both written by Russell T Davies, as well as Boom, which was written by Stephen Moffat. All three starring Shooty Gatwa as the Doctor and Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. I am your temp host for the week, though I am not from Chiswick, Alex Fireheart. Bill Sylvia, the one in black, is not here with us, but we do have his thoughts on all three episodes. Also joining me is not having to act as technical director this week, Mad Matt Winchell.
I push carts all day.
And acting technical director for the week, Erin Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello. Oh my god, I had to rush.
Yeah.
Fastest setup
Feel my
ever.
pain. Feel my pain. I just got here. Oh God, I'm trying to get everything ready.
Like, oh god, I didn't even have time to write the alt text for our stuff, so that's fine. That's fine.
Well, like Muppets.
Yeah, as far as opening banter goes, I'll leave it up to you two because I've got to do a lot of talking this stream, so I'm going to save my voice as much as I
Okay.
can.
I'm just going to go ahead and post our stuff to the alternate wait. Oh, hang on.
What are you doing?
X? The X is being weird. I don't know what is X doing. Add an existing account, whatever. X, you're being stupid. Go home, Elon Musk. You're drunk. Again. Stop laying people off for once. Alright. Anyway, for some reason I can't get into the Unearthly podcast Twitter X account, so we'll just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Okay, after you, Alex.
They're waiting for us to do our weekly banter.
Oh, our weekly banter? Oh, jeez.
Yes. Then you just said.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if either of you don't have anything particularly worth mentioning, we might skip it with how much we've got, but that's up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
Alex is trying to save their voice.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that today was a very busy day. I spent 10 hours with my boyfriend and it flew by like nothing. So yeah, I went out to a new Mexican restaurant, Tapatíos de Mexicana. Went and I bought a new vacuum, a Dyson vacuum, and that which was actually pretty awesome. That was on sale at Costco. What else? Went swimming, went to the hot tub. Also have been carving my way through multiple series. Not just Doctor Who, but Star Wars, Star Trek. I need to get caught up on anime, so I just feel like I have all this stuff to do, and I'm still trying to declutter the apartment and get everything organized to send the cyberpunk books down to Lupus in Texas and see who wants like comics. Like Randy had a bunch of old manga and stuff like Bao, which was a manga by the guy who created JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Mai the Psychic Girl, Darkstalkers, yeah, bunch of stuff that I'm going through and trying to find homes for. So yeah, it's been busy day for me. How about you, Matt?
Well, if it's not one issue, it's another. So I finally got the new car. My first day out with it, I passed by a truck that apparently had like gravel or something in it. It was going faster than it should have been and was scattering it like raindrops.
You didn't crash another car, did you?
Nope, but I got but my new car, which already had a hair like a fine crack at the bottom of the windscreen, now has a circular crack right above it.
Oh, lovely.
Ugh.
Yeah, first day on the road. That's just freaking dandy.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened. Yesterday was a hell day at work because for about at least a half hour or more, I was the only person running registers by myself, bagging everything myself.
Oh my god.
On the plus side, one of the bosses, not only once they found out what was going on and gave me a break as soon as things cooled off a bit, also took me aside to say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we got a lot of good feedback about you during all of this, so kudos on you. Yeah, but yeah, take a break. You deserve it."
Awesome. Are they going to hire more people to help you since you're so appreciated there?
Well, then there's today. Get to work. So, by the way, Matt. Oh no, now what? We may
Everybody
have to have you go outside and push carts all day today.
in the 80
Oh?
plus degree heat.
Yeah, turns out that all of the high school kids called in. Turns out prom was this week. Methinks these kids don't understand what programming ahead is about.
Mm-hmm.
Some heads may roll for that.
Honestly, a lot of the high school kids did that at work too. They ditched work
Well,
to go to
I
prom.
believe, not going to name names or anything because I'm not even sure for sure on it, but I believe there's a couple of them that were already kind of on the chopping block if they kept that kind of stuff up. And now that a whole bunch of them did it and left one person to push carts for 8 hours today, I'm pretty sure there's a few heads that are going to roll. So yeah, that's a thing. Oh yeah, and that and my head boss saw everything that's been going on today and went, "Oh yeah, I made sure to give you like we got this little bonus thing that higher ups, including the CEO, can give us like little extra gifts and stuff to like not even just one store, but the entire stores, etc., the entire company." Yeah, the boss of my part of my department literally went, "Yeah, I gave you just 500 more points. Go ahead."
Hmm.
I'm not sure how that translates. It's either $500 or I'm more leaning towards it's $50. Still,
Yeah.
that's an extra 50 in the pocket.
Yeah, I highly doubt it would be 500. It's more like 50.
Yeah, I don't think it would be 500 either. I wish, but for sure 50.
course,
So yeah.
It depends on how big the grocery store is, but like, yeah.
Well, Meyer is multiple states at this point, like including parts along the west, not the west, the east coast. It's trying to reach west. It's been having a difficult time of that. But particularly the Great Lakes, it's been spreading. But anyways, yeah, push carts all day today. But
wow.
I got a couple of breathers, including my brakes. Basically, I could take breaks whenever I want to, but they would radio in to make sure I took them, and then they would hydrate and fan off. And that was my last couple days. Other than that, I need to get at some stuff before we start moving, like soon. TM. Because technically, beginning of next month, we have the apartment, and we have like at least a couple weeks to try and get all the stuff moved, and figure out if we need to get like an extra storage place temporarily before we go to the bigger place. So long story short, the place we got, they also are aware that they're about to have a much bigger place available. That's only going to cost like an extra 100 a month.
Oh, that'll be nice.
But would fit everything that we have much more easily. In fact, but the person who's going to be leaving is like, I'm leaving soon, sometime, not sure when.
Are they doing? They must be doing month to month then.
Or something, I don't know, but yeah. Long story short, we're basically on the waiting list to me to get in there as soon as they're out, and in the meantime, we're like, okay, how do we squeeze everything? And apparently I might be involved in picking up lamps on Monday because there's no ceiling lights.
Hmm.
And Mother wants more light.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything else important. That basically covers a lot of what's been going on, at least recently. For the most part, yeah, that about covers it.
Okay. Ooh.
Just hectic and trying to get things moving.
Right.
with that, with that said,
Okay, we'll go right.
We have audio cues.
so yep. So tonight we will be doing news and birthdays, no geek talk, and even news I'll probably be rushing through. We probably won't stick on each story that long, if at all, unless there's like fairly notable things worth mentioning. But in any case, starting with birthdays, we have on the 5th of May, Richard E. Grant, who was one of the doctors in Curse of Fatal Death and the non-canonical Ninth Doctor in Scream of the Shalka, as well as Dr. Simeon and the Great Intelligence in Series 7, turned 67. Also on the 5th, we had Delia Derbyshire, the original theme music arranger, who would have been 87 but died in 2005 at the age of 86. On the 6th of May, we have Susan Brown, who played Bridget Spears in Torchwood Series 3, turns 78. On the 7th, we have Valentine Dial, who played a Black Guardian in seasons 17 and 20. Would have been 116, but died in 1985 at 77. On the 8th of May, we have Douglas Camfield, who was the director of 9 serials between 64 and 76. Would have been 93, but died in 84 at the age of 52. On the 9th of May, we have John Arnott, who played Cardinal Barusa in The Invasion of Time. Would have been 107, but died in 99 at the age of 82. Also on the 9th, we have Mary Warden, who played Sarah Kingdom, the aged version, seemingly, in the Daleks' Master Plan. Would have been 133, but died in 1978 at the age of 87. On the 12th of May, we have William Hughes, who was the Master from 2007 to 2010, and Boy in Torchwood Sleeper. Would have been 26, but died in 2018 at the age of 20. So for those guessing, I'm assuming that would have mean he was the kid version of the Master in those years.
I had an image of him, but.
Also on the 12th, we have Catherine Tate, who was Donna Noble from 2006 to 2010, and again in the 2023 specials, turned 56. On the 13th, we have Frances Barber, who played Madame Kavarian through Series 6, turned 66. And also on the 13th, we have Zoe Wanamaker, who played Cassandra O'Brien in Series 1 and 2, turned 75. On the 14th, finally, we have 3 birthdays here. We have Indira Varma, who played Susie Costello in Torchwood Series 1, turned 51. We also have Isan Churchman, who played Alpha Centauri in 72, 74, and 2017. And the Spiders in Planet of the Spiders turned 99. We're getting close. Let's see if she can make it. And finally, we have Tristram Carey, who did the incidental music for 7 serials from 64 to 72, and Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon. We won't hold that against them. Been 99, but died in 2008 at 82. So happy birthday to all of those folks. And unfortunately, we do have a lost story. This is from a few weeks ago, but an Unearthly podcast is sad to report the death of Ian Gelder, who was the voice of the remnants in the Ghost Monument, which, if I recall right, was effectively those flying rags, and Zelen in Can You Hear Me? So the supernatural, like godlike villain who could detach his fingers. He was also Mr. Decker in Torchwood Children of Earth. He has died at the age of 74 due to complications from bile duct cancer. People may also know him as Kevin Lannister in Game of Thrones. He's survived by his partner and fellow actor Ben Daniels. So, rest in peace, Ian, and condolences to his partner and family. That one kind of hit harder than I thought it would for me. I don't know why.
Well, we've seen a lot of their
He did
stuff
have
lately, to be fair.
and he did have very memorable roles. Like whether you
Mm.
like the episodes that he was in or not, he was pretty memorable in them. So moving on from that to the news, we have a ratings update. Within the first 24 hours of release on BBC One and BBC iPlayer, 2.6 million viewers watched Space Babies, and 2.4 million viewers watched The Devil's Chord. So, streaming numbers is its own weird thing, and whatever. But still
Well,
a decent amount of streaming.
the big thing for Doctor Who is that apparently with this new series, it's the first time they gone to streaming first.
I think
I
the
don't recall
idea
when, but I
is,
do believe that they released on BBC, but much later.
yeah, it's effectively it airs on its normal time on BBC TV, but rather than after that going on to streaming on either both iPlayer and like when it used to in Australia and that. I think the idea is to match that Disney Plus releases at midnight UK time. They release it on iPlayer midnight UK time, just so people from the UK aren't entirely screwed over by having to wait for it to air on TV first and then get it on iPlayer.
The results of being attached to an American company for this production.
Right. In any case, moving on from that, we have in future episode news, we have season 1 / series 14 / season 40, however you really want to refer to it as. We have episode teasers. Total TV Guide has released quotes to tease upcoming season 1 episodes, along with Radio Times teasers. Skipping the episodes we've already watched, we have the following: 73 Yards. The teaser is Welsh folk horror. The TARDIS lands on the cliff tops of West Wales. The Total TV Guide quote being Enid witchcraft is a very strong word. Dot and Bubble. The RT teaser. Lindy catches something in the corner of her eye. Total TV Guide quote, Ruby Sunday saying, Lindy, I want you to be very careful and look to your right. Rogue, the RT teaser, it's 1813 and there's a grand ball and the Duchess of Pemberton's Manor. At the Duchess of Pemberton's Manor. TTG quote, the Doctor, psychic earrings, choreography beamed into your motor system. Tap twice to choose your movements. Instant strictly. And finally, The Legend of Ruby Sunday, the RT teaser. The TARDIS is on a mission. A secret has been waiting since the era of the Third Doctor. Interesting. And the TTG quote, presumably the Doctor, Time Lords can regenerate their faces like a disguise. We look different, but we're still the same. Oh, my bad. There's also Empire of Death is the final one. For some reason, my brain just did not see that. RT teaser, the world reels from the most terrifying revelations and everything is lost. And the TTG quote, it's your life, Doctor. It's telling the story of your life. Moving on from that, we have a cast update. The cast list has been released for episode 4, 73 Yards. Cast includes characters such as Enid Meadows, Roger App William, Larry Palin, The Woman, Joshua Steele, E4 Jones, Thin Lucy, and Eddie Jones. A particular interest in the character is particular interest is the character Hiker, played by recurring actor Susan Twist. Susan Twist has appeared in the following roles so far: Mrs. Merridew in the 1666 portion of Wild Blue Yonder, the hippie who asked Ruby's band to play the 16th century Christmas carol Gaudette in the church on Ruby Road, comms officer Gina Scalzi in Space Babies, the tea lady at EMI Studios in Devil's Court, who does give a name, but I do forget what it was. The ambulance in Boom, and Susan Triad of Triad Technology in a trailer featuring The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death. We can assume that Susan Twist will continue to appear. I will just very quickly say, Russell, we did not need this many mystery boxes in one fucking
Jesus
season.
Christ, yes, this was unnecessary. This feels like a blink and miss it thing that just keeps going, and it's like, is there really any point to this?
I mean,
unless they all tie back into Mrs. Flood or something.
Well, that's the interesting thing is I almost thought for a sec, is it? But it's a different actress, so
Yeah, Anita Dobson. She seems to be associated with a lot of sciencey stuff. Maybe she's the Ronnie.
Possible.
I mean, I'd be fine with it if it was, because it would be nice to have her back.
Finally have her back, yeah.
Or perhaps we're getting both. Or perhaps we're getting both Romana and the Ronnie back. Blood Twist being one and Dobson being the other.
That could be interesting.
A lot of time.
I mean, God knows, I've seen there's like a lot of speculation.
There's a lot of wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, like I think I've even seen people assume Mrs. Flood might just be a very old Ruby going under a different name, but you know, we'll see where it goes. In any case, moving on from that, we have news on the 2024 Christmas special. While we've long had news based on resume leaks that Stephen Moffat was the writer of the 2024 Christmas special, he has finally confirmed in an interview that it is his 50th script for the series and is named Joy to the World. That count includes only full-length episodes, so no specials such as Time Crash, Curse of Fatal Death, and I'm assuming the webisodes that aired before Series 7, and includes co-written episodes. So moving on from that, which, to be honest, given that RTD is writing 6 out of the 8 episodes that we're getting, I'm fine with Moffat being given the Christmas special.
Yeah. I mean, they should be consistent then, at least, right?
Although it wasn't mentioned in that blurb, but this does mean
knocking on all the wood for you.
That Moffat will be the first writer who is not the current showrunner in Modern Who to write a special. Because prior to that, it was always the showrunner. Like RTD wrote all of his specials, Chibnall wrote all of his, Moffat wrote all of his. Maybe there was co-writers, but they were always involved in the writing of them. So it's interesting that this one is specifically being credited to Moffat, who is not currently the showrunner. But anyway, moving on from that, the official Doctor Who podcast has returned for the new season. This time it has an all-new cast with Nadee J of BBC Radio's One Extra Breakfast and comedian Shabazz Ali. They'll upload weekly after the BBC One airing of each new Doctor Who episode. I will say I did watch it, and I'm holding off on proper thoughts on the new format because I liked how the old one worked, and I did like the old people that they had on it, but I'm assuming there might have been scheduling conflicts, so they couldn't get them back. Like it wasn't bad at all, but it was just like they changed the entire format as well as who was hosting it. So we'll see where we go. It did have a very casual vibe about it though, so I did kind of like that. In any case, moving on from that to Big Finish. For new releases on the 8th of May, we had Torchwood 1, I Hate Mondays, written by James Goss and Joseph Lidster, starring Tracy Ann Oberman and Gareth David Lloyd. On the 14th of May, we had Torchwood Disco, written by Gareth David Lloyd and starring Gareth David Lloyd. And on the 16th of May, we had the 8th Doctor Adventures Echoes, written by Tim Foley, Lauren Mooney, Stuart Pringle, and Dan Rebellato, and starring Paul McGann and Nicola Walker. Also in Big Finish news, every year Big Finish opens submissions for the opportunity to pen a free short story in memory of Paul Spragg, a Big Finish production assistant who died in 2014. This year, Big Finish is especially interested in submissions that can fit within the Time War and are allowing but not requiring usage of the Daleks. Submissions of a single-page synopsis and an excerpt of the opening must be submitted by the end of Friday, June 28th. Throwing it out there, if anyone who potentially wants to submit is listening to this, the Rani committing war crimes. She is a mad scientist. The Time War absolutely fits. Go nuts.
True.
Like, she's either off doing her own shit, or you could work her into it saying that she was doing really dodgy stuff and the Time Lords were just turning a blind eye because it was to
Because they're
fuck
too
with the
busy
Daleks.
actually literally fighting somebody else most of the time.
Or they're outright funding her experiments so they can mess with
Well,
the Daleks.
maybe some of the dodgy Time Lords are funding her, yeah.
Yeah. But in any case, thank God. That's all the news. We've shockingly actually got through all of that in under a half hour. My God. That is kind of a miracle.
Hey, look at that.
Although I was kind of going straight through it, we only really stopped to comment on one or two things. So since we are skipping Geek Talk for the week because we've got 3 reviews to get through, which I will point out, we do have Bill's thoughts for all 3. Unfortunately, Matt did not have time to watch Boom, so he will be dipping out after the first.
I will be dipping out for Boom. I completely spaced on getting around to it because I also had other things going on today. Namely, I was dropping off my father's car back at his place and almost managed to dodge having to see him.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, it releasing literally the day before we're covering it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
It does add a little extra spice on that chaos, yes.
And like the fact that this week, especially last week, but this week now that we're doing 3 all at once. But in any
it's
case,
like remember, nope, brain out of jar.
I only got to see Boom once because I was so busy, and I slept in this morning too, which I don't usually do. I usually get up at 4:30 still on Saturdays.
Paper not bound to feed.
But in any case, with that, we will get to the summary, which I am doing all 3 this week and then taking a break from doing them. I've actively rescheduled the order so that I will be effectively skipped over twice because Space
Okay.
Babies was supposed to be me anyway, and I will just it'll like skip me twice in the order, and then I'll still have like 2 summaries before we finish. But anyway.
I should also say that Labor or Memorial Day weekend I will be unavailable. So I should probably have mentioned that before. By the way,
Memorial Day weekend.
yeah.
Next weekend. Or not next
I'm just
weekend.
gonna post that in our Discord real quick.
Actually, yeah, next. None. Yeah, today's the 18th, so yeah, not technically next weekend.
Not Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend. The other day.
In which case, I'm pretty sure Bill will be back by then, so I might change the order again so it's him next week and then you the week after.
Okay. You.
For that.
Alright, Space Babies!
Yep. Does anyone have a stopwatch up?
Here.
It is usually the person who's streaming is supposed to bring up the stopwatch, as they are usually the ones
I
recorded for the
always
stream
forget to bring
watch.
up the stopwatch. Always. This is not even a thing here.
The way I have my loadout is I have multiple tabs for Opera, and my browser for Opera for streaming automatically all loads on the stopwatch.
Yep. Like I actually use
it's like yes, this
I use both Opera and Google because Opera is weird about my Google identity, so I have to swap between the two. All right, ready whenever you are, Alex.
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
Okay, we open on the ending of Church of Ruby Road, which then extends into the Doctor explaining who he is and how the TARDIS works, including a trip to the far-flung past, so RTD can make a butterfly effect joke that results in Ruby turning into a lizard person for 10 seconds until he undoes it. By Ruby picking random numbers, they then land in the far-flung future year of 21,506 on a space station that turns out to be a baby farm orbiting the Earth colony planet Pacifico del Rio, with a monster randomly in the lower floors, which when asked about by the babies they run into, who seem to be running the station and able to talk, that the adults are gone, and because the adults are all gone, they claim the monster down there is the bogeyman. We then get a moment where the Doctor has a memory of the night Ruby was left at the church, with the memory being altered somehow. And when the Doctor snaps out of it, it's snowing indoors briefly before they are both called into a room by Nanny, who turns out to be a woman called Jocelyn, using some software that changes what she's saying to sound more formal. A former accountant who stayed behind when the station was abandoned because she couldn't leave the kids behind. To make a long story short, too late, the Doctor finds out the bogeyman was made by the computer as it went haywire and decided the kids needed a monster, so it made a literal bogeyman, aka a monster made out of snot. Jocelyn uses the Doctor and Ruby as bait, almost kills the creature, but the Doctor and Ruby manage to stop her because the kids suddenly don't want it to die for some reason. A fart joke manages to push the space station out of orbit of Pacifico del Rio and into the orbit of the planet that will take them in as refugees, with the Doctor giving Ruby a key to the TARDIS before they leave. The Doctor then explains to Ruby that he can't take her back to the day she was left at the church because he wants to avoid another Father's Day scenario, taking the earlier incident as a warning. We then end on the Doctor taking Ruby home to her family, ruining their kitchen ceiling, and the Doctor doing a scan of Ruby to figure out what's going on with her as we end the episode.
Yep. Alright, so let me see here. Let's show the audience. You did that in 2 minutes, 44 seconds, and 7, whatever the hell that is, nanoseconds?
Probably.
Yep.
Microseconds, one of those.
Microseconds.
Yeah, microseconds. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So with the order, we'll probably get Bill's out of the way first.
Mm-hmm.
So overall aspect, Bill's favorite overall aspect was that he liked the guest cast. The babies were believable in their role without being annoying, which is a fine line to cross. Jocelyn was also a good character, although she could have used some dialogue with the climax to really demonstrate some development. Yeah, like for all the, and we might get into it anyway, but there are some like good and bad stuff about the babies. The acting was fine for them, and Jocelyn was definitely nice to have in this. So from that, we go to Aaron.
All right. So what I liked about it, are we just going through or just doing
General, like,
each at a time?
Yeah,
Okay.
general, like
All right.
overall aspect kind of
Overall,
thing.
I like the foreshadowing in this. From the smell of the buildup of the diapers to the fairy tale like nature of the monster, thanks to the education software, and even denying Ruby the possibility of like going on, just doing whatever she wants and stuff like that. I think he even hints at the dangers of doing that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I enjoyed kind of the build up of that. It wasn't tension, but it all kind of ties together nicely. So.
Yeah.
And that's it for me.
Yep. Okay, Matt.
I will say that even when I heard this is a concept that was going to very much live or die right off the bat with the babies. Thankfully, they were at least clever in their shoot arounds, etc., with the babies, that they could get some proper emoting here and there and get some proper reactions to the babies. Because I guarantee you that had to have been like an absolute want to pull my hair out moment for a lot of the on-set people. Trying to get a whole bunch of these little kids to actually emote, react enough that they could slip some digital effects on and at least partially make it look like they're interacting. What must have been the absolute biggest like pulling teeth moment for a lot of people. I guarantee you there's also a bunch of mothers and fathers just offset trying to, oh, come on. Just try and get them to do the things they need to do for interactions as well.
Yeah. This definitely is one of those episodes that would have required almost everything to be 80 odd because of what they would have had to have been doing to corral the children.
In part, that alone would have been requiring a lot of audio cleanup, but also just like you have to also have a very attentive director with a very attentive cameraman who's ready to move away at a moment's notice because you never know when these kids are going to suddenly switch mood.
Yeah.
I know suddenly don't want to be near a stranger, and this kid starts crying.
But yeah, for me, my favorite aspect was the chemistry that Ruby and the Doctor have. Like, of a lot of them in New Who so far, I feel like this is one of the dynamics, and I feel it more in this than Church on Ruby Road to a point, but it kind of helps because this is the second story with the two of them rather than the first where they're just meeting. Yeah, Shooty Gatwa and Millie Gibson have a very solid chemistry in this and moving forward as well. But it absolutely is one of the shining lights of this story. So moving on from that to least favorite aspect overall. First up, we have Bill's. The whole station seems poorly thought out and contrived. Why did it need to make a monster? It didn't seem to serve any meaningful function, especially since the babies weren't originally intended to be there long enough for it to keep them out of anything. The blockage caused up by buildup of diapers is almost as bad. If there's anything you would expect the space station to have automated, it would be that. I was actually expecting the bogeyman to be constructed out of recycled shit for that reason. I can see why they decommissioned the station. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of its things where, like, if you think about it for more than a couple of seconds, the premise does kind of fall on its face with, like, how is this somehow so basic a setup that the babies can technically run it, but also that so much shit is going wrong at the same time. Like, you would think stuff would have gone wrong way quicker because I think the implication is that this has been abandoned for like, oh, I forget. Let's see. What year did I give in that summary? 21506. I think they seem to imply that it was like quite a while ago because I remember there being like 2222 coming up in there somehow. So, or whatever. Or like, but generally, like, oh, maybe they weren't giving a date, but the implication seems to be that it's been a couple of years. Like, it hasn't been months. It's been, I could be wrong, and maybe it was only like 6 months or something, but I think it sounded like it had been like possibly up to 6 years or something.
Oh yeah, I
And these
think
babies
that's what you
aged
said. 6
weirdly.
years. It only had 6 years of food, 6 years of water,
Hmm.
6 years of air, because her plan was to vent her oxygen into the babies.
Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of a miracle that it's lasted this long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless the idea is that a lot of it was automated, but now it's like it's going to shit because there's no one to actually repair it when things go wrong, etc. I don't know. But yeah, I can definitely get where Bill's coming from. It is one of those things where like it's fine when you're just kind of turning your brain off and watching it, but then you actually start thinking about it critically and you're like, yeah, what the hell? uh, so moving on from Bill's thoughts to Aaron, what was your least favorite overall aspect?
Hmm. I thought that the special effects for the babies was a little strange. Like their
Mhm.
lips would move, but their eyes would be looking somewhere else instead of at the person they're talking to. I
Yeah.
kind of wonder what it would have been like to just CGI the whole face or something, but then
Mm.
that would have been super creepy. Probably you'd wind up like the baby from Twilight.
Or actually, you could
Yeah,
end
so
up like some of the special effects we've seen recently from Torchwood, where it's a physical effect, but then you have this really creepy, weird digital face effect that doesn't mesh with anything.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
the mouth thing is gonna be mine too, so I'm basically just gonna piggyback off this and like
Mm-hmm.
I like the worst way I can put this is that I swear to God, I have seen this done better
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s.
Oh yeah, with look who's
Friggin'
talking.
Baby Geniuses did this
Oh
better.
yeah.
Oh,
Doctor
freaking baby geniuses.
Jeez.
like like I mean, that was earlier tech and all that, so it was in hindsight it probably does look kind of dodgy, but I remember it being like okay back then, at least for the time. You
At
would
least the
think you would
first
be
one.
able
I
to do
think
it
as
better
the
now.
sequels went on, they got lower and lower budgets and dodgier and dodgier
Yeah,
effects.
probably, yeah. But like I don't know. And it might just be because they fully animated. They might have just like removed the mouths off the babies and put
Mm-hmm.
it like an animated one over it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this looks like they're just animating the existing mouth to
Mm-hmm.
fit what they need it to say. And it looks really uncanny valley.
Yeah, it does. Especially when she picks up Ricky and she has him over her shoulder and he's like, I love you,
Mm,
Ruby. But like his eyes are just
yeah.
dead staring off into nowhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, that looks
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
creepy. Is he gonna
Definitely.
stab her?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it's definitely the
I
baby
love you,
being like,
Ruby. I'm
"Wait."
going to swallow your soul.
Yeah, it's very much the baby being like the baby being a baby and being like, "Wait, what's going on?" But, you know, that's not what they need for the scene. Like, at least some of the babies were alright, but it's also like, okay, that take clearly
But
wasn't a good take for that. Maybe do another
Mic
take.
on.
they probably did, but that was the best one out of like hours of taking that
Yeah,
take. And it's
maybe.
just like, forget it. We're just trying to get this angle where you barely see the eyes are
Mm,
looking somewhere else.
Well,
yeah.
here's
I
the
guess
other
especially
thing.
because
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Alex, you can go.
like yeah, especially because you're working with like literal babies, so there's
Mm-hmm.
only so much you can have them on set before it gets illegal.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna point out, so this station's been around for 6 years, right? Where maybe they could have done better if
It's
they
sitting
used
there.
older children, slightly older children, like 2 or 3 years old,
Yeah,
and that, and
like
then,
honest.
hmm
Yeah, my thing would have been having like in a way, I feel like this would have worked better if they were like 10
hmm
instead of babies. Because that way they're young enough that they're still very small. And, you know, they're young enough that, like, even the bogeyman shit would still work
hmm
because they're still young enough to believe in that kind of stuff. Like, and they're old enough that the kid actors could at least do maybe some of the overly technical dialogue, maybe. Or if you
hmm
have to dub over them, then you can get the kids to like mouth along with it,
it
Mm-hmm.
makes
and
it,
like you know,
yeah, it makes more sense. Some of their actions make more sense too, like piloting the ship or
Mm.
going off to fight the monster, and I don't,
Yeah, and it
and
gets yeah,
And also, with like
like
6 years passing, wouldn't there be older children on there anyway? Or are all of the babies shipped
well, right.
off?
I think it's kind of implied
Mic off.
that something happened and the babies are aging weird, so they're mentally kind of aging in that they can talk and understand all this scientific crap, but they're not physically aging for some bizarre reason, but that's never explained. It's just like there's a bit of throwaway dialogue to be like, yeah, technically they shouldn't be babies anymore, but the episode is Space Babies, so they kind of have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mic on.
um,
Mm.
but yeah. So moving on from that to Matt. What was your least favorite aspect?
Oh, least favorite aspect. Just like the whole very hand wavy excuse why a station like this would even exist, much less is still operational. I'm pretty sure even in a fantasy world, there's a lot of rules and regulations where
Mic
that
off.
would not fly with a lot of people
Mm.
and a lot of groups. I'm not sure why this would be considered fine, just abandoning a bunch of children on a space station, and why you would keep it
Yeah.
operational even though you're
Mm.
done using it. That's the kind of stuff that
Mm.
that's literally in most fantasy worlds. That's literally the moment you take the station, ground it, and you literally recycle it for parts for your new
Mhm.
city, etc. on the planet.
Yeah. Like it's definitely a thing where I get the analog they're going for of like
Mm-hmm.
people in real life who are pro life, but as soon as the babies are born, fuck them. Like, they'll just abandon them. Like,
Mic
I get
on.
that, but also it's like, well, someone else would probably still come along and be like, "Hey, maybe we can use this,"
Mm-hmm.
or something. Whether they're literally snatching the babies or they're just going like, "Oh, we can do something with this. They don't want it. We'll take it."
Right. Yeah, it's just the matter of the way they did it that doesn't quite click right.
Mm,
I get the idea, but it's not clicking with the idea.
mm,
Yeah. Like
that's fair.
someone would have rescued them by now, right?
Yeah, that too.
Mic
Mm,
off.
Yeah, matter of fact, yeah, you just gave the one reason why this doesn't work in your explanation. Someone will come along
Mic
eventually go,
on.
"Oh, we can save them," or "Oh, we could use them."
Well,
One
and
of the
Yeah.
two.
it wouldn't be kept a secret either because there were enough pissed off employees who protested
Mhm.
against it. Someone would have gone to the press.
Yeah.
Mic off.
Or generally just contacted like another government somewhere else to be like, hey, here's a baby farm. You want it? So these kids don't die? It'll be good PR if nothing else.
Sure, but we somehow, for some reason, can't go to places to collect a thing that doesn't move on its own. Sorry, bye-bye. That's a lame
Mm,
excuse, too. Anyway.
Mic on.
Mm-hmm.
mm. Um, I think I'll like. That's basically all covers everything I probably could have gone with. So I'll just skip and we will move on to favorite scenes. So starting with Bill again, the doctor laying down the rules and Ruby saying she is planning to go to her mum, leading into Carla's apartment. Given that they're so focused on the adoption angle, it's important to remember that Carla is her real mum and a biological material donor is something else.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it was carried out in a clever way. Yeah, that was really nice to like the twist on that being no, we are going to see my mum, and it's Carla. Especially nice that we actually got to
Mhm.
see her again because I wasn't sure how long it would take
Right.
for us to see Carla again.
To see Ruby's family at all again.
Mm. I mean, I guess to be fair, we did.
Also, the other brain question: are we going to try and avoid doing a rose?
Mm. Well, I mean, I'll put it this way: in she's not in Devil's Court, although she is mentioned, and there's no mention of her in Boom. So we're definitely not like continuously going back all the time, and I doubt she's in 73 yards either. So I think this is just like a, um, as Bill said, just kind of reaffirming that Carla is her mom, and like this is her family. Like whoever our actual biological parents are in heavy
Mic
quotations,
off.
like that doesn't really matter because she is very staunchly saying this is my family. In any case, moving on to Aaron, what was your favorite
Mic
scene?
on.
The babies with the flamethrowers. It's just the cute irony of a baby running around with a clearly dangerous weapon. How do they get a hold of it? Why are they allowed to have it?
Yeah.
I mean, there is an
Uh,
adult in the room. Why wasn't Jocelyn like running to like snatch it out of their hands? What are you doing?
uh,
They even pointed
yeah.
out like babies with flamethrowers.
It's definitely one of those ones where like
shoot lasers out of their foreheads.
it's definitely one of those ones of like this is totally ridiculous, but I kind of love it.
I know. It's just like where did they
Uh,
get them from?
yeah.
Did Jocelyn know they had
Spaceballs the
mm.
flamethrower.
them?
Merchandising. That's where they got it from.
I mean, it's a baby. Are they able to even? They need like, was it not memetic devices, but like Rubik, was it Rubik? Not Rubik's cube. Goldberg machines in order to run
Yeah, yeah.
the place. Are they able to even control flamethrowers? What if they accidentally lit the Doctor and Ruby on fire?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be so
Uh,
cute then, would they?
hmm.
Yeah, but that's mine. So
Yep. Okay, so Matt.
Mic off.
Oh, so favorite moment. Oh, actually, got a chuckle out of that we're trying to figure out what the monster is, and then it's the bogey, and then immediately flash back to Ruby getting gunked on. Oh Lord. Take me back to my Nickelodeon days, and then her reaction when she figures out, no. Ugh.
Yeah. Like, I feel like what really, like, yeah, Millie Gibson absolutely sold that, especially like having a go at the doctor for laughing. And like the doctor laughing is nice because like if the doctor was like, "Oh no, let's get you cleaned up or something,"
Mic on.
like, yeah, fine, but it feels more in character for the doctor overall to just kind of laugh at that.
I
Well,
like
Like,
how
thing
he.
is, it's a
some
TARDIS. It's not a biggie.
Mhm.
yeah.
I like how he teased her about it too. He's like, "Oh, you don't want to know.
Mm.
Oh no."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so moving on to me. My favorite scene was the doctor asking Jocelyn why she's hiding in that storage compartment, and her basically just giving like the most understandable answer you could give to that situation of just, I don't want them to see me die, and I also don't want to see them die.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, because of the whole like, this place is going to shit. We're all doomed. I don't want to have to see that. Like, that is absolutely an understandable thing of like, yeah, I'd rather just sequester myself off. I don't want to have to see that. And again, yeah, like if they knew she was there and then they had to watch her die probably before them, depending, like, yeah, like you're basically just making those kids' last moments really horrific. Like, more
Mm-hmm.
horrific than they already would be by virtue of the fact they were probably gonna like uh, you know, lack of oxygen, lack of oxygen, and that killing them. But yeah. So moving on from that to our least favorite scenes, starting with Bill, and they have picked the opening. This is kind of nitpicky, but butterfly dies, therefore humans are replaced by butterflies. Just seems like a super weird leap. Maybe it's supposed to be nonsensical, but it just seemed to me the opposite should have happened. Again, maybe that's the point. Like, killing Hitler makes the Nazis worse tropes, but it was odd to me. I mean, he says, like, humans are therefore replaced by butterflies. I took it as either this is a new Silurian variant
Mm,
or just lizard people.
she's. I thought that at
Or
first
something.
too, but she actually does have antenna, and like her scales are actually
Mm.
butterfly scales. That's why they look kind of
Ah.
feather-like.
Okay. I think what threw me off was just the hatchling da 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 sounded very Silurian way of saying
Mm-hmm.
things. Um but yeah, like I kind of get it. Like I know the literally the only reason this wouldn't have been mine is that it's immediately undone
Mm-hmm.
and we have an explanation that the TARDIS has a workaround for butterfly effect logic. Um
Which makes me have some questions.
Yeah, like I would rather not have had butterfly effect logic
At
introduced to
all,
Doctor Who
period.
at all,
Yeah.
but knowing that it's like I did it for this one joke, I'm never doing it again, is like, okay, at least we're not doing this again potentially.
Except that now they introduce it, there's the actor
Mm,
that some moron down the line will reintroduce it again and again and
mm.
again, and just
That being
make me want to
said,
claw my eyes out.
that being said, this did happen already with the Mavity, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different kind of, but like, which interestingly enough, I don't think that word comes up in any of any of the three we're covering today. So it's kind of funny that they've kind of dropped that for now.
No, I
Which, to
thought
be
they
honest,
said it in
thank
Space
God.
Babies.
I might have
Like
just
he
forgotten.
was adjusting for Mavity or something like that. I remember him
Ah.
saying adjusting for Mavity or something.
Ah. I really wish they'd hurry up and go back and fix that because that's really bugging the hell out of me that there's
Mm-hmm.
that it's a running gag that's still there, and I kind of hope it is fixed. Like it was kind of funny at first, but the longer it goes, the more I'm gonna be like, are we actually gonna fix that, or is that just the status quo now?
Mm-hmm. It's a sign that it's the Disney Doctor Who version that you're watching.
But in any case, moving on to Aaron, what's your least favorite scene?
I'm gonna say I had like a few, but like kind of Bill kind of explained them away as his like favorite stuff. So I'm like, okay, I guess that does work, and I guess it's not that bad. So I'm just gonna go right ahead and to Ricky rolling in to fight the monster with the wooden sword. Where did he get the wooden sword, and where did he get this courage and everything, and
Mm,
that no one else around him seems to have. I don't know.
yeah.
I get that it's part of the storyline, but does the computer control the fact that he has courage now?
Mm,
When everybody else just seems terrified of it. And how come none of the other babies are
yeah.
terrified of it? When that was the whole
Mm,
point of the monster was that they would be scared of it.
yeah.
So, yeah.
That did ultimately feel like it was just an excuse to get them down there again,
Mm-hmm.
rather than like them deciding to go down there on their own. Um, like if there had been like a scene where like, and maybe there was, but they just cut it for time
Mm-hmm.
of him like looking at a monitor or something, like picking the sword up, which you could easily do with like to fake it to have a baby pick it up and then leave or something, or even just pick it up and like that would be at least something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Like see
that
some
being
kind of
said, with how
yeah.
off and on the babies are acting wise, for understandable reasons, they're babies. Like I could maybe get how that maybe wouldn't have worked, but it'd have been something. So is that it?
Yep, that's it for me.
Okay, Matt, least favorite.
Least favorite scene.
Mic off.
Why are we suddenly deciding to protect the alien monster?
Yeah,
Mic on.
That was my
like
other complaint too. Sorry.
Like,
yeah,
it
Mic
completely
off.
just took the good episode that was actually working and just yeeted it out the window for me. I turned off my brain for enough other things on this episode. It was fine. But then we're suddenly pulling out of nowhere, we need to protect the monster. How about you blow it out my backside?
yeah, like
Just out of nowhere. It's a giant goober
mm,
monster. The point of children's childhood stories is that you're supposed to destroy the monster and everyone's safe. The happy ending. Ta-da!
yeah, that. And the funny thing is like the doctor caring I can get because it's a unique form of life, blah 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 blah. But Ruby necessarily caring outside of just the doctors caring being infectious, whatever. The
And then
babies
the
caring.
babies. Yeah, the
That
baby.
made no sense because
No.
that came out of nowhere.
Mic on.
Like maybe you could argue like them seeing it suffer
Mm-hmm.
triggered it, but again, we don't really see that. We just see them suddenly being like, "No, don't hurt it, Nanny,"
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, "Wait, what?
It's like
Where'd that come from?"
yeah. I
Uh,
guess you can liken it to someone like your parents or someone squashing a bug or a spider, and you're like, no, don't hurt it. They're like, but it's an icky
mm.
spider. Only this is a giant monster.
mm.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. It was too much of an about face, and everyone just seemed to go along with saving the monster a little too easily.
For no reason.
Mm-hmm. It's like they needed to wrap up the
Uh.
episode real quick, but they wanted to get this one lesson in real fast, and like
Even though
magically
no
everyone.
lessons were learned.
Mhm.
It just smacks of what?
Mhm.
Especially because, like, what are you gonna do with it now that it's still alive?
It's
Like,
literally
you
just gonna sit in that room. Because leaving it to sit in
like,
a room and then die on its own is better
it's a
than
big-
leaving it run around or
Mm.
just killing it mercifully. No, let's
Yeah,
just imprison it. What?
like, yeah, like if there was a follow up on this episode, it'd be, oh, what happened to the bogeyman? Oh yeah, when we got rescued, they killed it. That'd be it.
That or when they got rescued, the bogeyman got free and massacred half the characters
Yeah, pretty
because
much.
you
Mhm.
had this coming.
Although it is funny because it seems to only exist to scare them, not attack them, because it like clearly got right up in that one kid's face, but then did nothing. So it just exists to
Well, the
scare them, not attack
The
them.
kid supposedly managed to slip away
Mm.
and hid while he destroyed the carriage.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's the closest it ever got to the kids, as far as I'm aware.
Mm. But yeah, anyway, moving on to me. Thankfully no one took it, but I'm gonna go with kind of the elephant in the room, the fart joke of releasing all of the buildup of methane because of the nappy buildup, and that somehow propelling the ship. And they deliberately designed the space station so it looked like it was a butt where it was coming out of. And I'm like,
Yeah.
thank God. Like I literally I wrote down like basic notes for everything for this and Devil's Chord. And I literally just put the "excuse me, do I not farting while I'm saving the world" quote there. Like from the Ninth Doctor, because I'm just like, that's immediately what that reminded me of. Of just that, which at least it's only one fart joke, and it isn't Aliens in London World War III where it's fart jokes all the time. But it was just like, oh my god. And as well, how does that logically work? Like, I don't get, like, even if you're saying the
Mic off.
methane propelled it where? How did that propel it out of orbit of the planet that it was orbiting around? I doubt it was that much of a build-up that it was somehow strong enough to make it loosen itself from orbit.
Mic on.
And even then, it starts moving. It's not going to stop moving once it's
Yeah.
got. Unless we're using Star Wars logic,
Mhm.
where science goes to die, and science goes to die in Doctor Who as well. To be fair, but
Yeah,
once it's got
sometimes.
momentum, that's it. It's just going to keep going.
It's gonna-
You can argue that it'll
Unless it hits something big enough to pull it into an orbit, but still.
Well,
Right.
here's the thing:
Some
if
very
it
precise
falls out of
calculating.
orbit, it's going to be crashing down into the planet that they're trying to seek asylum at. Unless
Right.
the planet has some tractor beam or something that allows you to just kind of, or some kind of space station itself that allows you to kind of slide into welcoming waters, so to speak.
Yeah. Like, effectively, I assume what he's trying to imply is that it somehow broke out of orbit of Pacifico del Rio and ended up in the orbit, being able to snap onto the orbit
off.
of the planet they were trying to get to. But again, it's like, how was that enough? Because this is that far flung in the future that you can't use the toy maker logic of like, oh, everything's still kind of in a state of play because like it's whatever. This is nowhere near Earth. This is like, tens of thousands of years in the future. Like, I don't, that logic does not work. This is very fantasy logic. And like, I'm fine with some, like, I don't need Doctor Who to ever be hard sci-fi, but also this is a bit too fantasy for me.
Mm-hmm. This is bordering on Moffat.
Mic on.
I mean, RTD was very much a leaning into fantastical kind of stuff, or just making science cry, but um, it's still kind of like I don't know. Yeah, it's just it's very head scratching. But in any case, with that all said, moving on to final thoughts for Space Babies, and we'll have Bill's first. I don't see how Space Babies could be anything but corny from the trailers, but I would say it delivered. It was a fun story and a clever one. First, I was irked by the abortion ban plot that never really went anywhere. Irked that the abortion ban plot never really went anywhere. Reflecting on it, I think the whole point was, aren't these absolutist bans nonsensical? Look at this nonsense. And that's probably enough critique in and of itself. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like
Um,
Chibnall where it had to beat you over the head with every, progressive idea. It said what it needed to say and then it moved on.
hmm.
Which is why some people might be saying it's less woke than previous series, even though it's not really. It's still pretty progressive.
I mean, they'd probably still be annoyed that like the baby running things was black, but
Yeah.
those kinds of people can generally fuck off. So, Aaron, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts was that it was a cute episode, lots of energy and excitement to it, pretty upbeat and kind of carefree and fun. Like I said, it presented progressive ideas without lecturing or beating the audience over the head with it. It also kind of, I don't know, yeah, I guess there wouldn't be a conservative pro-life thing in there. I thought that there would be, like, for something just kind of caught my eye, or something that they were trying to kind of put things at both ends of the spectrum, and that now we have babies, we have to take care of them, I guess. Is still progressive. So I don't know. I was kind of, there was something that kind of tripped me up there. I'm like, wait a second, are they also trying to say this? Can't quite remember what it was, so because it was a while ago that I watched the episode. But anyway, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's not the greatest episode, but it's a nice one other than the Christmas one to jump into for this series or season of Doctor Who. So, yep, that's it for me.
Yep. Matt.
Alright. So basically, my very simple theory and thought on this episode is they actually managed to give us an episode that had potential. Just turn off your brain and then enjoy the ride. And then they immediately shot the ride in the foot at the last act for no particular reason whatsoever. The whole just sudden heel turn on getting rid of the monster just made zero sense. And suddenly everyone except for the person in control of the airlock is in on it. Why? How? What? I don't. Ugh. Honestly, they did a good enough job with the rest of it that I enjoyed myself, and then it just like I'm like, what? Why? This makes no sense. How? What? It's just. Meh.
As far as my final thoughts go, of the three stories we'll be covering today, this is the weakest. Easily. It's not horrible. It's not like the worst thing ever done. It's not the worst thing RTD's ever done by a long shot, because Love and Monsters still exists for one thing.
Yeah.
And Fear Her. And Aliens of London World War III. So this isn't that bad. So he's toned it down somewhat. Again, there's only one fart joke. It's a, gigantic one, but it's, at least one. And the bogeyman stuff, it's like, I could take it or leave it. Honestly, I feel like the problem that I have with this episode is that by virtue of the, you know, oh, well, we can't just kill all these babies. That would be immoral. But so we're just abandoning them on the space station. The fact that that's not the theme makes it feel like there is no theme to
Yeah.
me. It's just like, here's a bunch of babies on a space station. Haha, isn't this fun? Which, like, I mean, freaking hell. Dinosaurs in a spaceship is like, that is exactly what it says on the tin. And I'm like,
And
yeah,
you get
that's
exactly what you came for.
yeah, it's like, it's not the best episode ever, but it was a fun ride. This, I don't know. It leans. I'd probably put it on par with that if for no other reason that it's like, the acting holds up pretty well. There's just a lot of like, you picked babies to make a story around, so be that on your own head that it doesn't entirely work.
I think it.
Um.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it probably should have been like 5 to 10-year-olds. Maybe even like 10-year-olds are running things, but there's also younger kids. Or something like that, so they can be more involved in all that kind of thing. I mean, if you really wanted to, if they really wanted to take a big swing, this could have essentially been Children of the Corn in space,
Yeah.
or Lord of the Flies in space. Like, that would have been very interesting, but I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think Russell would necessarily go for that, or at least not this early.
You
I
could
can see
also.
Moffat maybe doing that, but
Yeah.
RTD not so much. Or like maybe that could have, like, I could almost see that being a Torchwood story, maybe more so than Doctor Who, but yeah. In any case, yeah, so not especially egregiously bad. Like, if you turn your brain off, you can enjoy it well enough. But for an opening episode of a season, bold choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, uh
I could
I will say I did forget a line from Bill, so I'll just throw that in quick. That he also added that the Doctor wanting to save even the bogeyman is just classic. I could see John Pertwee or Chris Eccleston in that sequence, and it would fit. Yeah, pretty much. Again, like as brought up before, it's more so that everyone else in that scenario was like, "No, we have to save the creature trying to kill the babies,"
very easy to
rather
convince.
than yeah. But in any case, from that to ratings, Bill says this may be a bit high, but I'm going to lean towards positives of this and give it a 4.5.
Ooh.
Someone going to, and then asking if someone's going to enter the ratings, and that will be me. So 4.5. For Bill, okay. Aaron, what are you giving
I
this?
think now that we've kind of pointed out some of the stuff, and also I want to say that they could have also gone with the route where there were adults on the station, but somehow the babies were like hyper intelligent and like kind
Yeah,
of
well,
wondering
again, like
what's going
space
on.
baby geniuses.
Yeah, like the adults are actually evil, and you have to rescue the babies from them. So you could have done that too.
Yeah.
I would say now that we've kind of pointed out like a lot of the flaws in the episode, I think I'm going to go with a 3.5.
3.5 from Aaron. Matt. Your score?
Oh, sorry.
Mic
Slipped out of there
off.
for a moment. My score. I didn't necessarily hate it. As a matter of fact, I liked it a lot. It's just that the last act really ruined it for me. So I guess like maybe a 4.
4.0. So, I will agree with Aaron on this case. I feel like this is just flawed enough to give a 3.5, but I don't think I could justify going any lower. So with
Yeah,
that,
I won't go too low, but I also don't want to go any higher. That's for darn sure.
yeah.
It needs some
So
tuning.
with that, this ends up at a
Mic on.
3.88. Which will put it roughly. This hasn't been sorted, so technically some of these numbers will probably change. But I'll just list off because we've got 3 stories to do total. I will just lift off what's it on par with, rather than what it's above, below, etc. So that will put it roughly at 261 out of 470 things reviewed. And it is on par with the Rebel Flesh, the Almost People, the Leisure Hive, Underworld, the Crotons, the Doctor's Daughter, the Gardens of Dead, Torchwood from Out of the Rain, Big Finish, Jago and Lightfoot Revival, Acts 1 and 2, and Big Finish. Not sure what the MR stands for, my bad. The Condemned. So there we go. That's it for that one. Moving on to the summary for the Devil's Chord.
All right, let me bring up the stopwatch again. We reset it. Ready to go whenever you are. So,
I'm
go.
ready. Okay, in 1925, a music teacher manages to discover the titular Devil's Chord.
Mic
Playing
off.
it, only managing to summon an interdimensional being called the Maestro, who it later turns out is a child of the toy maker. The focus this time being music instead of games. Ruby and the Doctor come into play for this by Ruby deciding she wants the Doctor to take her back to 1963 to watch the Beatles recording their first album. When they start to watch them record, though, and anyone else they decide to watch in on after the fact, the musical's all wrong, as the world has seemingly lost its taste for music, with this having apparently started back in 1925 when the Maestro first showed up. The Doctor gets Ruby to play a song on a piano on the roof of the EMI recording studios building, only for it to eventually summon the Maestro, who manages to track them down after the two evade them for a while. Also being distracted or at least almost finds them, but then is distracted by someone else playing music, so they go off to kill that person, or at least steal that person's music.
It's Dev. This is Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Sweet little
Eventually,
old lady got murdered.
Eventually, the Doctor takes Ruby into the present to show her what will happen if they don't stop the Maestro. But unlike in Pyramids of Mars, the Maestro shows up to taunt them, managing to mess with the TARDIS by finding the frequency it resonates at, until the Doctor managed to wrestle back control by yanking things out and possibly rebooting the TARDIS. Once back in 1963, having realized while they were in the messed up present that there must be rules, same as a toy maker, and that there must be a set of notes that can send the Maestro back to where they came from. The Doctor tries and fails to find the right notes ultimately, with Ruby and the Doctor both being captured and imprisoned in different instruments. As well as that, the Maestro tries to take the song of her soul from Ruby, only for it to not work because of overarching mystery box stuff, and gives up on trying to do that. So after having captured them, Paul McCartney and John Lennon find the piano that the Doctor was using to find the right notes, and the two manage to complete the sequence, banishing the Maestro, who, before leaving, manages to scream out about the one who waits to get some more foreshadowing in. We then end on a musical number, which has been explained in hindsight by the rush of all the music in the world coming back at once. And the Doctor and Ruby playing the Abbey Road Zebra Crossing like a piano before we end the episode. Done.
Mic
Alright.
on.
Let's take a look at this. Bring up the window capture. And that was 3 minutes, 20 seconds, and 35 microseconds.
Thankfully, I'm keeping these under 5 minutes, given there's 3 of them. I've got to get through. So, moving on to favorite overall aspects. First, we'll start with Bill's. He's put down, they remembered that Ruby is a musician. This means RTD gets more points than all of Mel's writers combined.
Wah, wah, wah.
And to be honest, as much as I don't like harping on Chibnall, but, you know, Yaz was a cop. Ryan had dyspraxia. Both of those rarely came up.
As a matter of fact, if anything, very often it seemed that Yaz was not even good at her job, even though she was supposedly good when she was at her job. So shrug. I don't get it.
In any case, moving on from that to Aaron, your favorite overall aspect of Devil's Chord.
Let's see here. I actually see. I know it's kind of controversial, but I actually enjoyed the Maestro.
Yeah.
I felt like they felt like a musical Pennywise, to be honest. Which is
Yeah.
it was. They came off as creepy when they needed to be. They were intimidating when they needed to be, and they were kind of goofy and fun. So they kind of hit all. Just to put it in music wise, they hit all the notes they needed to for that character. So I thought the acting was very good. And yeah, it was hammy, but I kind of like those types of characters, and it's also the offspring of another kind of quirky, crazy villain, the Toymaker. So it makes sense that they're kind of a little off the wall, a little different, you know, flamboyant and everything too. Because Neil Patrick Harris's Toymaker was pretty flamboyant as well.
Like, I definitely enjoyed Jinx Monsoon's portrayal. But I can also very easily, especially when it was pointed out by a review I did watch in the interim, why some people might not, because as was pointed out by a YouTuber I watch, Jinx Monsoon comes from the school of drag where you start at 11 and you stay there. So it's always at 11. So it can potentially, I can see why that would potentially grade on some people.
Yeah, that's why I have to say I sadly agree with the other party. It really degraded on me. I'm like, this character could be really good if you just stop being so obnoxious.
Like tone it down a little bit, be a little bit more subtle when it needs to be.
Can we bring it down to at least a 9 for like half a second?
It
For the
is
love
an
of
exhausting.
God.
Like,
It is an exhausting performance.
Yeah, and I understand the character, and I understand what they're doing with the character, but don't be at 11 the entire gobsmacking time. Even the Toymaker brought down a little bit now and again. Shook things up a little bit. Did something a little different now and here and now. Never was he completely like an absolute 11 obnoxious thing all the time. Again, they even had rules, which this one tried to break or tried to hide.
Oh, yep, that's my thing, so.
Yeah, that being said, Matt's favorite overall aspect.
My favorite overall aspect, honestly, just the message of what music can be for people.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, matter of fact, I'm experiencing a little bit of a euphoria right now myself. I got my new car that's up and running since Wednesday. One of the best things I accidentally found out about is the sound system in that son of a gun. I have been bringing CDs to work so I can listen to them on the way home and back. On the way to work and back home. Because I can clear a CD in about half an hour. I accidentally happened upon it as I was listening to the radio. I'm like, oh, if I got a decent classic rock station crank, what? What are these speakers in here? Okay, I need to. And I was like, okay, yeah, I was already going to stop at Walmart to try and get a few things. I'm going to see what I can find for a music CD to listen to on the way home. I found the original first album from Boston. I cranked that son of a gun. I believe it was a long time was playing as I hit the pedal to the metal on my way out of town. Suddenly realized, oh, I'm going a little bit fast. Quickly hit the brake as I stopped for a red light. And like 3 seconds later, a police patrol vehicle pulls up next to me. No lights or anything. I'm just like, oh, hi, officers. And as soon as the lights changed green, they zipped way faster than me. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. They must have been on their way to something else. Just not an immediate emergency. Oh, thank God. I am not their target. Although I bet you they were eyeing me for a moment.
They may have gotten a call and been like, I can't play
Yeah,
with you.
they were probably like the secondary group to call in or something. Yeah. Like I said, not an emergency yet because the lights weren't going, but they were on their way. Very much on their way. I believe in the area I was at, the speed limit was 45. They had to have been doing at least 60. I'm like, oh. But yeah, the music can affect you such a huge way, and to have a world where suddenly music is just gone. Ugh. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on the general overall good thing, the big musical message, and why it's important.
Ooh, let's see. I guess I'll just generally go for, because it's more of a recurring thing rather than a specific scene. I'll just go for like the general. You know, I'll go for like the maestro in the sense of the threat being played as it is, because like the doctor is just shitting himself. Like basically the whole story. Like there's a bit where like the maestro shouts at him and he actually like flinches. And I'm like, yes, more of this, please. None of this fucking standing up in front of godlike entities and like being like, oh yeah, fuck you. I've dealt with this before. I'm good. It's like it sells the threat more if the doctor is actually somewhat scared. Like especially makes sense in this case because we are just coming off the toy maker fairly recently. But, you know, it is nice when the doctor is like has some level of fear about, oh shit, this is way beyond me.
The doctor remembering that there are godlike beings out there and they are a bit beyond his pay grade unless he's got some backup.
Okay, so moving on to least favorite aspects overall, starting with Bill. Russell, I can't portray any disabled people as evil because of the evil cripple trope. Davies is over here continuing to double down on queer-coded villains right here in front of my elote. We've had
I
two
thought about that
scenes.
earlier too.
We've had 2 scenes in the past 6 episodes focusing on correcting pronouns, and both were evil non-binary characters. Not doing a good job of avoiding villainizing a group of people that a lot of people hate anyway. I will elaborate my thoughts on that when we get to scenes. But it is annoying that we're getting this kind of thing continuing. That being said, it's funny because like it only bugs me because he bother to do the pronouns stuff. It's like this is an entity from another universe in this case. Like a different plane of existence. Don't like I'm queer. I'm a fucking, massive lefty. But I did not need to have the pronoun scene in this. Like with the meep, I was fine with it because it was like, okay, we're establishing that the meep just goes by the meep and that's it. Fair enough. But this it made less sense. The meep it made sense because there was a trans person involved in that scene. So it made sense for the trans person to point that out. That I let slide. That was fine. This, it's the 1920s when that happens. So it's like, I don't know. Like that whole scene did kind of bug me, but we'll get to that when we get to what scene. So moving on from that, Aaron, what was your least favorite overall aspect?
I'm gonna say I wrote down like the other side of the maestro thing being over the top, but the maestro character being over the top. But I think there's something else that I want to say, but I can't think of it right now. Like I can't put it into words, but I'm gonna say that I actually didn't like the singing and all the music throughout the serial. It came off as I don't really like musical episodes. Like, I just got through the second season of Strange New Worlds, and there was a musical episode in that as well. So, the spoiler alert: there's a musical episode in that as well. And I think it takes me out of the show. Honestly, I think it does. Now, a show about
I think it
music?
depends on how you do it, but yeah, there's a lot of ways you could fail at this.
Yeah, like this, and I'll get down to my least favorite scene, but I've got a few written down. But yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like the music. The thing about music was fine with them, putting out boring music and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I don't know. And I liked Ruby's song, kind of, because that made sense. She's being held captive and like she's like fighting for her life, and so she kind of sings, the song that was like around that time when she was abandoned. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like Church on Ruby Road. The idea is that the goblins, like, I don't think it was that they could only speak in song, but there was like
Mic off.
there was a
Mic on.
there was a reason, there was kind of a logic to it, and it was like aftermath of the toy maker still, so there was still a bit of that kind of energy lingering. This, it's like, because it's not a musical throughout, it does seem a bit weird that there is kind of like, again, like I added it into the summary that apparently it has been explained by Russell that the idea is the music coming back at once is why everyone breaks into song. It's just kind of an after effect of the maestro being banished. Sort of like how the toy maker being banished, there was still lingering energy so they could do the two TARDISes thing. But yeah, it is still kind of a, I mean, I'll put it this way, I'll take this over Last Chance to Learn.
I'd have some arguments about that at the end here.
Mic off.
But yeah, in any case, Matt, or least favorite overall aspect.
Least favorite overall aspect, again, I have to say, as much as I wanted to enjoy the character of the Maestro, the hamminess was just so potent that I literally had to rely on everyone else to up the ante to try and keep interested in the story, which thank God they did it and they did it well. But every time Maestro's on, I just like, okay, we got the glorious hammy in the scenery again. What now?
Mm,
Mic on.
yeah, again, that's
Mhm.
fair enough. It's definitely one of
Yeah.
those. It's
Um,
definitely one of those things where, like, I absolutely get why people would not be a fan of that performance
But
because it
Yeah.
is
then to
very.
sprinkle on top of it the fact that the maestro's attacking people with these comically animated musical note things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the threat,
Mm. Yeah,
and and then when the Beatles see these notes hanging over the piano, they don't immediately go, "What the fuck is this?" and run away.
The music's alive. Oh shit.
I mean, to be fair, it was the 60s. Maybe they were high.
I'll be
And then I
honest.
got
I could
high.
maybe watching this episode twice was enough for me. Like I don't know if I could
Mm.
repeatedly watch this episode because I do agree that while I like the Maestro as a villain, I don't know if I could continually watch them be a villain
Take
constantly.
that being the villain. Yeah,
Mm,
there's no way you could have
yeah.
a season of the maestro to not be just like,
Just like, oh god.
I think I've had
Mm.
enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A little bit goes a long way. So.
Mm.
Yeah, for me, for worst overall aspect, I literally just wrote it down, so I'm just gonna read it out. At least the note I wrote to work off of. Why is this the second episode?
Oh yeah, that's true.
We went from Space Babies to Child of the fucking Toy Maker. Like, that's a leap in threat level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have either A, reversed the order and had this first, so it's like right out the gate, big swing, massive villain, and then Space Babies to be a little lighthearted before getting into Boom, which is a bit darker. Like that kind of would have made sense, but having this second is such a weird choice. Like, I don't know. I feel like this should have either been later, unless the idea is the payoff at the end of the season is going to be the one who waits, so we had to establish this early. But then again, that's why I suggest this probably should have been first, and then Space Baby second. So yeah, I don't really get the logic behind that ordering in episodes, because like Space Babies probably would. I mean, to a point,
Mic
like I
on.
definitely remember some people saying that they're glad that both of these came out at the same time because they preferred Devil's Chord to Space Babies. But yeah, like I would have preferred the order be switched. But in any case, moving on to favorite scenes. And Bill's is the Beatles beating the Maestro. It fits so much more than the Doctor doing it. It changed the message from "the Doctor always wins" to "you can rekindle the music in someone's heart and lead them to accomplish great things." Yeah, I absolutely preferred the fact that it was. I mean, for one thing, it justified the Beatles being present at all.
Yeah.
And it also just made more sense that actual musicians would do that, would manage to do it, rather than, because it was a musician that summoned the maestro, so it makes sense that it would be musicians that banish the maestro as well. So yeah, Aaron, favorite scene.
My favorite scene is going to be the maestro playing the intro on the piano. Like I thought that was a fun. That was a
Yeah.
fun fourth
That was
wall
actually a
break.
fun start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
The-
like,
the,
oh, this
like-
is kind of cool.
Yeah, I will admit the only issue I had with that is that I really wish they'd fully committed and a full piano cover of the Doctor Who theme had just been the
It's
theme for the episode
That would have
to
been
be
cool
fair
too.
rather than
though,
the
it's
normal one.
too advanced of a scene. Actually, I would have just loved to have a full orchestral version instead of all the synthesizer going back to the usual synthesizers and everything. Just to hit the note head nail on the head to keep playing piano, maybe even multiple pianos or a little bit of symphony backing.
Well, they do have a symphony, so it would have made sense if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had
It like
this.
it
Yeah.
cuts. Yeah, it does cut back into like what the current Doctor Who theme is, and I was just like, oh, I almost kind of wish it was just like fully played out on piano
Mm-hmm.
for just this once, because that would have been kind of fun. In any case, Matt, favorite scene.
Favorite scene. Gosh, there's actually a couple of good ones. Yeah, despite my complaints about the main villain, there's actually a lot of actually interesting moments that played out throughout this episode. Just wish they were the rule, not the exception, half the time. I'm trying to make my brain settle on one of them right now. I think we already covered the Ruby playing, I believe. Someone brought that up, or
To
was
a
that something
point.
else
To a
earlier?
point. I think that was an aspect.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Otherwise,
that was just Bill's like general overall
oh,
thing was yay he remembered that she's a musician.
Yeah.
um, as much as I want to go with Gotcha's acting when trying to react to the fact that another deity-like evil thing is after him, that would be more of a follow-up. I would actually have to say, the acting from the actors that we got as the Beatles.
Hmm.
They don't all necessarily look the part, although I will say the one that they got to play, oh,
John Lennon or Paul
Lennon was pretty
McCartney.
good, but Paul
Yeah.
McCartney nailed it from me,
Hmm.
like big time. He was really good.
See, I thought the guy who played John Lennon, was good too.
Maybe I just haven't seen enough of the older pictures of him, but he looked pretty good, but not as much as the Paul actor for me. But both of them in their dialogues with different characters really hit home as well when they got some extra time to talk. But in particular, though, the scene when they are sitting down with Paul McCartney's character and his desire to literally find this bit of music that's in him that he can't seem to let out. And then just talking about suddenly bringing up the villain.
Yeah.
And then causing them to freak out and walk away. That was some like intensely good acting, and I could definitely see that coming out of them if they were in that kind of situation. That's something that would mesh with that particular musician's character. But yeah.
Yep. So you know what? I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna do 2 because I'm going last.
Okay.
So first, I just for the note that I gave, I just labeled it as I'm from 1980 because again, I made the Pyramids of Mars reference during the summary because it's effectively a similar scene just expanded, where it's like I'll take you to the then present that I picked you up from, and show you this is what happens if we do not stop this. Because Millie Gibson sells the hell out of that. And it is generally nice that the maestro, unlike Sutek, shows up and taunts them as well. Because they're a kind of entity that can manage that. You could maybe make an argument that Sutek probably couldn't have, even despite being a high level kind of character, but it with an entity related to the toy maker, it makes sense that they could jump forward and taunt them. Or that actually no, I think it's not even that they jump forward. I think it's even just that like they're just still around.
Mic on.
Mhm.
And they're like they are like, oh yeah, that's right. You were there in the 60s, weren't you?
Mhm.
So that's actually really nice. And also, because it didn't get mentioned, I'm also going to mention the scene where the Doctor uses the Sonic to block out all sound within a certain radius.
Oh, mm-hmm. That was a
And
really good moment too.
yeah, like just absolute dead silent, no music, no nothing. And like the maestro eventually overcomes it, but it's just that is a really well done scene. So moving on from that to
Mic
worst
off.
or least favorite scenes. Starting with Bill. Seems we're going with the elephant in the room right off the bat. The musical number at the end. It would be one thing if people were
Oh,
forced.
God damn it, Bill!
Mic on.
It'd be one thing if people were forced to sing in the maestro's presence, or there was a lot of connection to musical theater in this. There wasn't, so having a Broadway number at the end didn't really fit. Also, now even the Doctor is talking about Susan Twist, the actor. I refuse to believe that's a coincidence.
It's not even a Broadway number. It's supposed to be the twist.
Yeah.
This ain't the
Well, yeah.
freaking twist. This
I
is
was
a
gonna
pop number that sounds like garbage.
I mean, this felt like
Literally, because this is also mine. I'm just gonna staple money on here. This is literally so awful to me. I skipped to the end part after the music. I hated it so much. I skipped it. Fuck that music number in particular.
It reminded me of a DreamWorks cartoon, the end of a DreamWorks movie.
I would rather watch any musical number from them.
I mean, it made me
bull.
At least the choreography made me think of stuff that maybe would have been in movies at the time. But like those would usually
Give
be
me a real
one
twist
thing.
from the 60s that's pre-recorded on old film, and I will be a much happier man.
Yeah, like
this was modern pop junk, and you can take it and toss that right out the window. F you and your Miley Cyrus too.
I'll have to remind Matt that the Beatles at one point were considered pop.
Yes, but they were good pop. This was modern garbage again. No,
I mean they could have
not
used
having it.
They could have used a Beatles song or a Beatles more Beatles like song.
Yeah,
the Beatles had a couple songs that were technically close to being a twist. Yes, by all means, it would have been closer. It would have been more effective.
If nothing else, I feel like this is. I don't know who did the song because I forgot to check, but this does feel like it might have been an idea to get someone who has a musical background, like specifically musicals background, and like ones that are set in that time period or has seen enough or analyze and whatever that could have wrote it.
Finish your thought if you got something yet.
And I guess also it's an additional problem of it might be also just a problem of Russell having written this one instead of handing it off to someone who has more of an in-depth knowledge of music, or that could have worked with.
Could have been
someone
something
who
to that
did.
effect. Yeah. Are you good?
Yep.
Because my final thought that just came up, because it's the Beatles and because they're not famous yet, that twist song, replace it with Love Me Do. Their first song, their biggest song, which by the way was re-released recently with their official final song.
Hmm. And the funny thing is like if they'd moved the year up, it could have been All You Need Is Love. It could have been Hey Jude. You know,
Well, they were
depending
still
on the
going with
time
where
this
they were
was set.
starting, but there's a lot of good numbers they could have had there, and it's just like you wasted it. You wasted it. You could have.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome to have all four of those actors, give them like a nice, prominent, good close up look at them, and maybe a little bit of extra costume design to make sure they looked more like the boys at the time when they became popular, and give them a number to at least lip sync to. Or even give them a chance to actually sing legitimately to it too. You never know. Maybe
Yeah.
they actually do have a little bit of skill as a group.
And the funny thing is like some people would probably argue, oh, it's Doctor Who. They wouldn't have the money to do that. The Sarah Jane Adventures had a snippet of a Beatles song in it, and that was a lower budget than Doctor Who. So
There's no reason, and especially when you are backed by Disney right now,
yeah,
that
right.
you can't find Beatles money somewhere in the couch cushions,
Yeah.
unless Disney really has had hard up for cash all of a sudden lately. You
would
tell
think-
me,
yeah.
BBC.
Yeah, like I feel like the easiest way to explain away the musical number would have been that it coming off as more spontaneous. Like
Instead
if
of those
the
fourth wall weekends is like,
yeah, and then just cutting straight to it. Like if it had been like the Doctor just started singing what he was saying,
Oh yeah.
and then it's like, hang on, what the hell's going on here?
Spoiler
And then
alert,
it just
yeah.
yeah, and then it happens, and then you come out of the end of it, and they're like, I guess that was an after effect of the maestro being gone. Okay. But otherwise, it's just a musical number. They play the zebra crossing like a piano and then leave. And it's like, okay, no explanation, I guess. We have to get RTD telling us after the fact.
Yeah, but spoiler alert,
Good.
Brave or Strange New Worlds actually did just that, where people just suddenly start singing. And then it's explained like midway through the episode what's going on and how they can fight it.
So sort of like
See,
that,
at
like
least that's
Buffy
plot
episode then.
relevant.
Yeah, it's plot.
Yeah.
It's very plot relevant. So it doesn't just it doesn't just come out of nowhere. So
It's not
Yeah.
stable on a piece of garbage.
well, it does, but it makes sense to the plot. Yeah.
So, Aaron, do you have a different?
I do have a different one.
what is that?
I also don't like the ending, but for overall, but like the music battle with the cartoon notes was a little cringy. Like it just kind of
Yeah.
felt like it was it felt like it was artificially extending the episode. But I guess they needed something to happen that wasn't someone outside from the Doctor, since he already confessed that he couldn't really fight it. He couldn't really fight them, the Maestro, all that easily. Perhaps it meant that someone else needed to come and save them. That's, led to the Beatles saving them too. So, I understand it, but like the battle itself with the cartoon notes was a little goofy. I really don't know if you needed them. I get that the Maestro uses notes to like string people up and everything, but did you actually need them in that fight? So it's a little kind of nitpicky, but.
And I will admit, that would have been a better way to introduce the Beatles being present. Is that they're involved in that?
Yeah.
And then they get like knocked back. So when the piano gets knocked away, the Maestro is more focused on the Doctor and Ruby. So you've got Paul and John can do what they end up doing. And they're like actually aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and they don't just stumble onto a piano with notes hanging over the top of it.
Yeah.
Especially in a world that is supposed to be so blah, you would think that they'd be. You would think that they would be freaked out, because I doubt that drugs exist in that world. It'd be
Well,
too much like music or something. Too much like a looseness of the soul, I guess.
mm.
Mm.
I mean, I could see drugs existing with them just being like maybe more downers than uppers.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on anymore. I'm so depressed.
God.
When you think about it.
But that's it for me. That was mine. So.
Another Marvin
yeah.
the Martian quote. Marvin the
Mic
Robot
off.
quotes.
So Matt, do you have a backup since Bill took
No,
yours?
like I said, I still put mine on the Bills. Just my absolute
Yeah.
passionate loathing of that musical number. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm still interested in watching the movie He's Singing in the Rain just because of its artistic qualities and not just because it's a
Mm.
musical. But even then, I'm willing to sit there and take that musical, and if nothing else, to also find here Singing in the Rain, the song in its entirety for a
Mm.
change. Because I've only ever seen tidbits of it. I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. So that musical number just
Mic on.
By the way, Singing in the Rain is actually a really good movie. I have seen it.
See, I want to still see it. I got it from my mother for Mother's Day.
Okay, so for me, my least favorite scene, it kind of came up earlier, with Bill's least favorite aspect. But yeah, I'm going to jump onto the whole thing after the maestro is summoned, and then there's the immediate getting the pronouns wrong, misgendering shit. For fuck's sake, Russell, you dead named a trans woman in the fucking God, what was it called again? The first of the 60th
Yeah, the
specials.
first special. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then you do this. Please knock it off. Like,
Mic off.
I get it. I know that Jinx Monsoon is non-binary. So am I. So knock this shit off. I'm telling you. Like, don't do that again. Or we will have words. Like, just don't. I'm sick of it.
Mic
I
on.
don't need scenes like that in
Are we
Doctor
gonna have
Who.
to? Are we
Thank
gonna
you
have
very
to
much.
get a GoFundMe for Alex to fly over to the UK to give RTD a good pounding into the dirt for constantly doing this kind of shit?
Because, like, again, it's like, again, with the bringing up the pronouns thing in that story with the mate, I was fine with it because it made sense for Rose to bring it up. But in this, like, I didn't need that. I didn't need this guy assuming that the maestro is a man in drag or this, that, the other. Didn't need it.
And this
Didn't
the
need it
BB
at all.
this
Especially
the
because the
BBC.
maestro, yeah, especially because the maestro is a again, otherworldly entity. You could have
Yeah,
just
technically
ignored
it's not
that.
any of them. It's an anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, you didn't need to bring it up. Like,
mhm.
for all we know, Jinx Monsoon could have been playing a woman rather than a non-binary character or this, that, whatever.
Mhm.
Like, it didn't need to come up, so you're just misgendering a character for the sake of bringing up pronouns. You do not need to do that, Russell. Please stop, or I will punch you in the face.
This on the
Like,
UK news, an Aussie trans person has come to the UK and has beaten a UK showrunner into the dirt after several minutes of curb stomping.
like,
The only quote we could get was "F you and your misgendering."
Well, so specifically, what happened is the victim at the beginning of the episode refers to Jinx Monsoon's character, the Maestro, as she, like, or lady or woman or something like that.
Actually, didn't they do a him too?
yeah, there was a him
Well, the
first.
Harbinger, Henry or whatever,
Yeah,
Harbinger.
Harry Harbinger.
Yeah, he he's like, that's my father.
Yeah, but also there's like the music teacher is also like, get away from that man or that thing or etc etc, and I'm just like, I don't need this, Russell. I don't need this in my Doctor Who, thank you. Like,
you kind of almost cheer on the victim being killed, but at the same time you look at what the time and place that this was all happening, so it's just like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was unnecessary. Like, it's
Either
the
way,
same.
it's just not unnecessary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing as like with Rose being dead named. You didn't need to do that. We know she's trans. We know she cops shit for being trans. I didn't need that in my fiction. I didn't need that in my escapist fiction. Thank you very much.
Wait,
Like,
Rose was
they could have been
trans?
heckling her. They could have
Rose
been
Donna's
heckling.
daughter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Donna's
Donna's
daughter
daughter
is
Rose's.
is a
Yeah,
trans? Oh,
yeah.
I did not know that. Like, I
Like
just
Yeah.
thought.
portrayed by a trans actress, and the character
Oh,
is
I was
canonically
wondering why
trans
she
as
was
well.
so tall. Oh, I feel stupid now. Like, cause like I thought it was just, not exactly feminine woman, but I thought it was natural woman, or like,
Well,
a
one of the
biological.
scenes that she's walking with Donna is kids riding by on bikes and calling her by her dead name,
I didn't
Yeah.
even notice that. Holy cow.
which is why Donna's like
Mm.
gets suddenly very agitated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I was
I
wondering.
went off
I
on a
remember
rant.
this. Yeah, I remember the scene, but I didn't real. I just thought Donna was like getting mad at cheeky kids on bikes. I didn't realize that they were dead naming her daughter. Holy
Yeah.
crap!
Mm.
That makes so
Yeah.
much more sense. I'm like, why is Donna's daughter so tall? She doesn't come off as like a 19, like, someone, a teenager or something. She looks a little bit older
Mm.
on that. So that makes a lot more sense. That went right over my head. So I apologize for that.
That's all right.
No,
I mean, it
no. I
happens.
mean, if it happened to pass you by, it happened to pass you by. It was to be
Mm.
fair, a rather quick moment, but it was still an obnoxious moment for some people.
Mm. Um, in that sense, moving on from that rant to final thoughts.
Got a couple of them out tonight, didn't we?
Yeah. So final thoughts for the Devil's Chord. First up, we have Bills. Interesting to see the Maestro as a Toymaker's child. It was an interesting twist that could be used sometime down the line. This episode had a few missteps, but it was solid, focusing on a story about music. I could see this being played in junior high music classes for years to come.
A bit
Aaron,
of
your
high hope
final
there.
thoughts.
Final thoughts. Of course, we see Twist show up in the cafeteria with the doctor complaining about the price of coffee. I'm kind of wondering who the oldest one is, because the Maestro mentions the oldest one as
Yeah, the
well,
one who
as the
waits.
one who waits. But are they two separate entities, or are they the same entity?
Same entity, different names. You never know. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the fact that there's a reference to the giggle. Like the doctor knows immediately that's the giggle. We need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as well, like, the Maestro kind of fits in with the Toymaker's pantheon in that they are as well not just an all-powerful being, but also very flamboyant, very kind of interesting and quirky, and with kind of these crazy powers and stuff too. So, and actually, I found them pretty intimidating too, as a villain. When they yell and everything, they're kind of like the Joker when they yell. They're like, oh man, shit just got serious. I may pooped a little.
Yeah.
I pooped out my butthole.
All right, that's it for me though.
Okay, so Matt, final thoughts.
Well, thoughts. There's a lot of really good ideas with this story. Sadly, I feel like a lot of them were let down. There's so much more we could have done, especially since we literally recast the entire Beatles. We could have had them on for a lot more than just a quick cameo and one or two talking points. I like the idea of the Maestro. I don't necessarily like how it played out in this episode. Maybe if you bring it down a little more, play it a little more serious, a few little more milder moments, I can maybe get into the swing of the character a bit more. But as over the top as it was just like it was started to reach gratiating points. And also, again, that musical number at the end pissed me off and annoyed me so much. I literally skipped a section of the episode to get to the like keyboard walkway thing.
Mm.
And it's just like, okay, it's still stupid, but whatever, keep going. It's less obnoxious than that music number was.
Mm.
But yeah, there's some stuff to like, especially a lot of the acting and I thought the background music was really good in this one too. And again, bringing up Ruby's background with music, it was a good idea, which also helped further the plot. It's just that there's so many dropped balls. It's actually is kind of upsetting. But that's my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so my thoughts are that I still prefer this to Space Babies. Like, there are some things that do kind of bug me here and there. Most of the rest of it I can just kind of go with. I do like that this isn't just, while, the idea is a child of the toy maker, they're not literally just the toy maker again, but a different theme.
A
Like
different theme, yeah.
there are distinct performances. So, which, I mean, to be fair, you got two very different actors, so you were bound to get two different performances. But I'm definitely glad that Jinx Monsoon is not being told just be like Neil Patrick Harris was being.
Yeah.
Because like that would not have worked at all. And like again,
they have to have the character go about it its own way, but it still was a little off the rails for me, and I'm sure for some people too. But anyway,
yeah, like I can definitely understand that some people might not have been keen on the performance, but I was fine with it. There were like bits and pieces where I was like, yeah, that probably would have been better if you dialed it down. But otherwise, yeah, I was relatively okay with this one. It's good. It could have been better. I absolutely do think this should have been handed to someone else other than Russell. Because he's doing 6 out of the 8 episodes, and I don't agree with that. But yeah, for what we got,
Russell, you quit last time because you were burning out.
I do have a question. So, did they get rid of the whole writer's room thing that they were going to try when they hired Chibnall on?
Yeah, that's just completely gone because it's not being run by the BBC anymore. It's just being run by Bad Wolf. Okay. So I'm not sure what's going on with the writing room.
Oh.
Yeah, like I don't think we know particularly. I think it's just going back to how Russell used to do it, where he just get writers in for stuff here and there. So in any case, moving on to ratings for the Devil's Chord. Bill has given it a 4. It's a bit under episode 1, so we'll round it down to a 4.0. Aaron, what's your score?
There's a lot of stuff that I don't like, but there's also a lot of stuff that I actually really liked. I also forgot to mention the costumes. I like the costuming. I thought that was really well done. And, the old cars and everything, they made an effort to make it look like you were at least, or feel like you were in the 60s. Especially in, like, the cafeteria and stuff. Gosh. I'm going to be kicking myself, maybe, for giving it such a high score, but I really did enjoy this episode, so I'm going to give it a 4.5.
4.5 from Aaron. Matt.
Yeah, this one gave me the exact opposite feelings, especially towards the end. This one gets a 3 out of me. This one, like,
Oh. So 3.0 from Matt. And I am going to agree with Bill. I like this more than Space Babies, but it wasn't enough to really get it higher than a 4.0 for me. which, funnily enough, despite the fact that
Same
the
rating.
scores were different, the rating is exactly the same as the Space
Oy.
Baby. I don't know if we've ever managed that before. At least it's probably been a while anyway, where it wasn't just a round number twice in a row. So yeah, Devil's Chord 3.88 as well, which again puts it on par with Space Babies and hell, I already read all the other ones off, so you know. But that would put it also around, oh god, whereabouts was that again? So that puts it also around somewhere to the effect of being around either 261 or 262 out of 471 things reviewed. So we will say goodbye to Matt for now.
Yep, I'll see you all next week.
All right.
See you then.
Matt.
Good
So
night,
we
everybody.
can-
Oh my god, what do we do now?
and we will move on to our review
Boom.
of Boom.
All right, and we can start going in now.
We open on a seemingly war-torn planet, later revealed as Castarian 3, in which two soldiers who are also priests stumble around a battlefield, only to ultimately both get killed off by an ambulance. We then see the Doctor and Ruby arrive on the planet, only for the Doctor to wander off and step on a landmine, which he ends up stuck on for the vast majority of the episode. After grabbing the remains of someone called John Francis Vader, Ruby manages to hand the remains over to the Doctor in their little container, allowing the Doctor to plant his other foot, which had been up in the air this whole time, but also making the landmine's timer get even closer to exploding. Closer again when Splice, full name Splice Allison Vader, John's daughter, comes up to them and almost sets the mine off, trying to get to the hologram of her dad. But Ruby stops her, with two more soldiers showing up over time. First, Mundy shows up. Mundy makes things worse by shooting the Doctor's arm, and then realizing what's going on. Ruby having taken the gun off Mundy to shoot in the air to get the ambulance away from the Doctor, given it was gearing up to possibly kill him. Mundy then tries to get Ruby to shoot her, only for Carson to show up and shoot Ruby. The Doctor then gives the revelation that the landmine he's standing on belongs to this army of Anglicans, and that Castarian 3 is uninhabited, or at least most likely uninhabited. Somehow convincing the AI version of John to break through its own programming and try to override the ambulance. While trying to break into the ambulance on his own efforts, Carson gets distracted by Mundy, with them almost confessing their love for each other, and is killed, with the John AI seemingly getting overridden, only for that to not be the case, as it manages to override the Valengard systems, allowing it to revive Ruby and disable the mine the Doctor has been standing on, finally allowing him to move around, with the AI seemingly have taken down the entire Valengard network, or at least within the vicinity of where they are. So the other ambulances that have shown up will not mess with them as well. The Doctor and Ruby then say their farewells to Mundy and Splice, who end the episode looking off into the horizon with the dad hologram, while we end on one remaining snowflake from a moment where the snow motif with Ruby kicked in again for a second. The end.
All right, so let's go to the window capture. So you finished that up in 3 minutes, 10 seconds, and 83 microseconds.
So moving on to our thoughts. First favorite overall aspect. First up, we got Bill. This episode was very snappy, taking a very simple premise, stuck on a landmine, and filling it with plot points. I was surprised when the episode got close to the end because it really felt like it had only been 20 minutes from how it flowed. Yeah, the pacing was pretty good in this. I was
Mhm.
like, at first I was kind of wondering, oh god, we're going to have the Doctor stuck on a landmine for like the better part of 40 to 50 minutes. But yeah, no, this really goes by quick.
Mhm.
So Aaron, your favorite aspect?
I liked how they were willing to go into more serious and dire tones after Space Babies and the Goofy
Hmm.
sing along. Um, we now get into a war world where we're confronted with serious topics such as war, horrifying death, like literally people being squished down into tubes where you can actually
Yeah.
see their eye. You can actually see an eye on one
Mm,
of the tubes if you look closely. It's just like,
yeah.
oh. And the fact that they're just so nonchalantly handling these tubes too. I mean, do they feel squishy or how does that, they're quote unquote smelted? I don't know, but that was a
Mm,
horrifying death and the difficult discussions around the place of religion in people's lives and
mm,
stuff. So we had some very heavy topics in this one, which I really enjoyed, and it was very much. I didn't think it went super fast. But that was just me. I was kind of waiting for the next thing to happen in the
mm,
episode, but yeah. Like I was pleasantly surprised by this.
mm. Yeah, my favorite aspect of this, honestly, is that the dead people stay dead.
Mhm.
Like, this is a Moffat story, so I was gearing myself up for, oh, Doctor's gonna bullshit some way to reconstitute the dad
Mhm.
or something. Like, he's gonna find some way to undo the process. And, like, you can argue that, like, yeah, he's still around in AI form, but
Mhm.
considering what Moffat has done before with his dead but not really crap,
Mhm.
like, Clara escapes death, Bill transcends existence to like
Mhm.
another plane of existence, etc. Like that kind of
That's
stuff.
okay then.
Like it was this where it's like, no, they're dead. They're dead. And it's implied that Ruby wasn't even like dead and revived.
I was gonna point that out. Yeah.
She'd basically just passed out.
Mhm.
So like she was like on the verge of death, but she didn't actually like die and get like brought back kind of a thing. So that was nice for like given given what I'm used to from Moffat from his run. It was nice to have a moment where we actually let the dead stay dead.
Yeah.
uh so, so moving on from that to least favorite aspects, Bill's is the twist was overly telegraphed. I was able to guess it from the cold open, which was teased in advance, and the Doctor likewise figured it out in a matter of seconds once local knowledge arrived. Leave something to the imagination, Stephen. Yeah, like the whole twist of like there are no aliens. You're just basically fighting nothing. Like
Yeah, that was
you just
pretty well established early on.
yeah,
Especially when they
like
cleared the smoke and you don't see anything.
mm,
You don't even see movement of like aliens trying to burrow into
mm,
the ground or anything like that.
yeah, yeah. It's just very like well, as yeah, you could pretty much tell. They're like if there'd been like, what surprises me is they didn't pipe in sound effects
Mhm.
to be like pipe in alien sounding noises to make them like shoot wildly to potentially accidentally shoot each other in the fog or something. But yeah,
Maybe they needed
it
more
is.
control than that.
Mm,
They didn't want to accidentally kill like competent soldiers
Maybe.
Well, not
Yeah.
competent, but like quality
Yeah.
soldiers. They don't want to kill the
Right.
quality soldiers accidentally with friendly fire.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. In any case, Aaron, your least favorite aspect.
I actually dislike the Anglican Marines. It felt a little weird. Like, mostly because I've been reading the Hyperion series by Dan Simmons, which is a very similar.
Yeah.
It's a very similar pretense, but instead of Anglicans, it's the Catholic Church that's in space and going to war
Yeah.
with other peoples. And so Catholic Church I see is much more aggressive, and of course the Crusades, the classic Crusades and everything like that. So but with the collars and everything, the Anglicans in the show do kind of, look kind of like Catholics or Catholic priests.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's kind of a hint, hint, nudge, nudge. We're not going to put Catholics in our
Yeah.
episode, but they're going to wear, like, the Anglicans wear the
Yeah.
same collar or similar collar. So this could
Yeah.
also be a stand-in. So,
I mean, I guess you can argue by virtue of the fact that the head of the Anglican Church is the monarch of England, there's kind of a thing there
yeah.
as far as how dangerous they could potentially be. I mean, it's interesting that he doesn't clarify if this is the same organization that showed up in. I feel like people have said that this organization actually showed up in Silence of the Library, but also the Time of Angels, the Forest of the Dead or whatever it was, two-parter with the Weeping Angels, where in the 11th Doctor run does have like at least I forget if they're all, but at least one of the soldiers is like also a priest.
Yeah.
So it's like, is this related to that? Is this its own thing? It could be Moffat bringing that back, but he doesn't explicitly state. So it's like, uh,
Yeah, because I thought there was someone else mentioned that they may be from a different series, but the episode that they mentioned I was not familiar with, so I'm wondering if it's Jodie Whittaker's story that I completely forgot about, or it's
I don't think so.
gosh.
I don't think religion really got tackled at all outside of like, I guess Demons of the Punjab technically, sort of.
Yeah, because I honestly I don't remember much of Jodie Whittaker's run, unfortunately. Of course I only really watched her show. I wasn't there for her show for the podcast, so I wasn't watching episodes twice or anything like that.
Yeah. For my least favorite aspect overall, God, I'm trying to remember what it was now. I had one. God.
Oh, Warrior Church from Demon's Run. That's what Bill was talking about. In
Right.
spoilers.
Right. Um, wow. I swear I had one, but now I'm like really blanking
Yeah, disliked about the serial in
on
general.
overall. Yeah. Well. Given I can't think of anything, I'll just pass because we've been going for almost 2.5 hours. So
yeah, it's 2 hours and 29 minutes, in fact.
Yeah. So moving on from that, like if I come up with something else, I'll probably bring it up in final thoughts. But in any case, moving on to favorite scenes, starting with Bill. Despite being non-religious myself, I'm going to go with the scene in which Splice draws strength from her beliefs. The he's not gone, just dead bit, and the Doctor encourages her to keep the faith. As someone who's taught part of a Psych of Religion course. It's great to see that religious systems were both criticized and praised for things that scholars also look at. In this case, religion's used to justify war and keep people from asking questions while also giving strength to people in difficult times. Makes me wonder if this is the episode that Moffat invented the Anglican Marines for, though I doubt it was, considering how long after he left the showrunner position it was written. Yeah. I mean, I could maybe see him maybe having it in the back of his mind, oh, maybe I'll get around to it, and then just never did. But in a way, if he ever thought of doing something like this while he was showrunner, I'm glad he didn't, because his writing has always been better when he hasn't been the showrunner. I mean, like, there's plenty of good stuff in his showrunner run, but, you know, it's few and far between as opposed to prior to that, he'd usually knock it out of the park most times. So, Aaron, favorite scene?
Favorite scene is when Vader's AI takes out the corporation, because you think he's been defeated. It's just like, oh, and then he comes back, and then it's really strange because it's almost, I don't know if the AI just kind of evolves to change itself to more closely mimic Vader's personality based on maybe his final messages and stuff, and like, kind of more closely resemble what he would say and do instead of just like the was it the stolid or whatever, the stiff kind of repetition of the company message. So
Yeah.
and just being able to go in, and he's destroying his own system, because like Vader, or the Villengard made him, so he's fighting against his
Yeah.
own creators. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um.
And that's it for me. So
Ooh. Yeah. My favorite scene. Ooh. This is actually kind of hard because there's a few options, and there's so few of us here that there's a lot to pick from. You know what? Just because it like the line resonated and just has stuck with me since. Um, Carson, like after shooting Ruby, and like the ambulance is like figuring out what's wrong with Ruby and everything. Carson admitting that the ambulances are not programmed to assist non-believers. That was just like, it's
oh
such
yeah.
a kind of blink and you'll miss it line, but that is a loaded line.
Yeah.
Because like it just makes me think, like, again, that's one of those things where it's like political commentary without it without that specific aspect being the like entire point of the thing, because we are criticizing both like religion and reasons people go to war and all that, a lot of things really, and capitalism in this, and throwing that just that little thing in there is just like, the amount of like Red Cross and Salvation Army jokes I wanted to make in my mind at the when I realized when that clicked
Oh, believe me.
was just like, because yeah, both of those organizations do not particularly like queer people, so
Well,
like, you
and
know, that was very
yeah. I live right next to one of the big Red Crosses right across the street from my apartment, and walking home, people would almost hit me. And shit, it's just like in the Red Cross vans. I'm like, you're Red Cross. Why aren't you stopping for a fucking pedestrian?
yeah.
You know. I also wanted to point out that there's actually times when you see a lot of different religions refusing service. We frequently hear about
Right.
Christian businesses refusing service, and Christian doctors disputing birth control and all that stuff. But I also
Yeah.
distinctly remember there was a time where Islamic taxi drivers banded together and refused to give rides to non-Islamic believers, the non-believers basically. That was a long time ago. That was probably about
Yeah.
5.5 years ago. I had just started at my new job at that point, but I thought it was really interesting. I'm like, wow, she was on the other foot. How does it feel now to be denied service by someone who is, a religious zealot? It's not so good, is it?
Yeah.
So,
And like,
yeah.
even going into that, I mean, they're a cult, they're not a religion, but Scientology, I've heard stories of like, rather than taking someone to a hospital that was closer and maybe the person would have survived, they were like, no, 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 we have to take them to this much further away hospital that actually has a
Mm-hmm.
Scientologist doctor.
Oh,
And it's like, so the person died on the way or just
jeez.
was dead by the time they got there. So it was like, you know, yeah, there's like a lot. Like, again, that one line can evoke
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Yep.
um,
Wow.
so
If we
anyway,
talking about all this stuff, I think I might have to change my rating and stuff. Because I did only get to watch this once, though, so.
well, yeah, there's like, I had, in a way, I did kind of have the benefit of having watched this twice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, it's been said before when you haven't been here, but there have been times where some of us have gone back, rewatched stuff, and changed our ratings. So if you ever
Mm-hmm.
get the chance to do that in future, you can definitely do that. Um, but in any case, moving on to least favorite scenes. First up, we have Bill's. And his was the other guy thinks I'm attracted to him now. Lol, gay jokes are so quirky. That's
Mm-hmm.
one tick that Moffat still hasn't gotten over after all these years. That joke belongs back in 2010. Shockingly, after the rant I had in Devil's Chord, I'm actually gonna say, me personally, I absolutely understand, by the way, for
Mm-hmm.
anyone who thinks I'm gonna be discounting what Bill's saying. I get where Bill's coming from,
Mm-hmm.
but honestly, I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
Specifically because it's mentioned, like, it's not like he doesn't go on this big homophobic screed or anything. It's just, he could have told me where the tattoo was. Because, like, now I'm just, it felt more like I'm embarrassed rather than, lol, this guy thinks I like him now. It's like, well, you wanted to see a tattoo on his thigh. You can read into that. So it seemed like less like he was like, oh, can you believe that? That's gross.
Mm-hmm.
More so like, well, oh well.
Yeah.
Whoops. Kind
And
of
yet,
like just kind of embarrassing rather than being homophobic about it.
he has kind of a moment of clarity in his death when he repeats his message to Mundy, and like, so he's kind of oblivious when the guy kind of hits on him and stuff, but
Mm.
he's not so oblivious to realize that Mundy may not love him.
Mm.
It's kind of nuanced, or maybe it's just something. Maybe the recordings that are made at the very second of death, and is kind of record a record of their soul or something, their final thoughts.
Mm.
And
Possibly, yeah.
so it's like, how are these aren't made in advance? They don't sound. Oh, some of them don't sound like they're made in advance because a lot of them seem to contain revelations that you would only have
Mm.
when you were like just at just at the second of death. Like, oh man, she doesn't actually love
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
That type of thing. But then it's
Yeah.
reformatted into like a more formal message.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Mm. So Aaron, your favorite scene.
Uh,
Oh, sorry, least favorite scene.
least favorite scene. Okay.
On to now.
Um, I'm gonna say that I actually didn't enjoy the whole Kanto dying. It felt it was out of the blue and kind of pointless. It's kind of a typical RTD death for me,
Mm.
because like the first season's RTD's original run, there was always like that innocent person who dies or it has a pointless death, and it's supposed to hammer
Yeah.
home how death is unpredictable and it could happen to anyone. It's kind of part of that era of television where Game of Thrones obviously and a bunch of other
Mm.
shows kind of went that way. I
Yeah.
felt like um that that Vader's death would have been more poignant. I think it kind of took away a little bit from Vader's death because he actually has a daughter that he's leaving behind and everything.
Yeah.
So I felt like the dwelling on that kind of took away from the fact that this dude has a daughter who's now staring at blankly at pictures, which I kind of disagree with as well. But I don't want to take away from anyone else's least favorite scenes, so I could touch that on that in further notes. But yeah, I didn't like Kanto dying because again, it felt pointless and it felt like it took away a little bit from the melodrama, I guess. Just like, oh, another dead person.
Yeah. And like in a way, you could very easily have opened on like implying that they were together, but he's already dead. So now John is kind of stumbling around blind on his own rather than like it feels like he's really just there to get exposition.
Yeah.
Out so John isn't just talking to himself.
Yeah.
Which I mean, you could probably have achieved by just having the conversation with his daughter be longer or something.
Yeah.
But
oh, that would have been interesting if Kanto wasn't there or not. Was Kanto? No, Kanto was the one who confessed his love to Mundi. Wasn't he? That's the dude that I'm talking about. Kanto or Kantos. Not the guy who was walking around with Vader at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Like, I just have his name listed as Carson, but I could be wrong. I could be getting actors confused.
Oh, maybe it is Carson or something. I can't remember, but it began with a C. I'm pretty sure because I had the subtitles on. It began with a C, and it's the guy who was in love with Mundi, and so I felt his death was kind of pointless.
Yeah.
And that having all of that melodrama kind of drowned out the melodrama of Vader's death and him leaving his daughter behind. Of course, it also meant that Mundi had to deal with seeing death face to face, again, and possibly being the cause of it. So, well, otherwise, that's it for me.
Yep. Yeah, like for me, Splice running down after seeing the hologram of her dad come out to give her the message. And she just like runs right for it. Ruby has to like restrain her so she doesn't fuck everything up and kill them all.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this kid would not be this dumb.
Yeah.
Like, they're in a war, a war setting. I feel like even a kid is not gonna be that short-sighted as to just be running around. I mean, it really kind of gives away the fact that there's clearly no enemy forces, that the kid was able to get here with no trouble. But
I mean, how did the
also,
kid
like,
avoid a landmine then? Too?
Yeah. And that in its own right is kind of funny. Like, and like, it's just like, it's clearly not your dad. Like,
oh yeah,
it's just a hologram. So why are you running at it? And then like,
why are you acting like it's actually your dad? Unless people also communicate with holograms. Do they communicate with holograms? And like, if that's the case, then maybe we should see holograms of her talking to her dad.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, she goes on like she's aware that it's a hologram, but oh, where is he then? But none of them can be bothered to just be like, he's dead. Which, like, to be fair, yeah, but they're in the setting they're in. Would it really be all that shocking for her to learn that her dad died?
Yeah,
because we never really get to see her emotionally cope with that. She's just kind of happy-go-lucky the whole time.
Yeah, like I actually didn't really like Splice. I think that's the other thing I disliked about the episode. You notice where she just kind of sits down and starts looking at the photographs and stuff as if,
Yeah.
they're actual photographs and everything, and
Mm.
like nothing, she gets so self-absorbed. I think that's supposed to be like alluding to how kids get involved with social media and everything, and how they just get
Mm.
absorbed in social media and ignore the world around them. I think that's
Yeah.
also a topic that they tried to tackle, but I don't think it worked because she's in a war zone. Why is she sitting down watching a hologram of what she knows is her dead father?
Yeah. Like, it could also possibly play into the, like, blind faith
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it, but, yeah, it's one of those things where, like, the execution on that is a bit wonky. Um, so moving on from that, we're at final thoughts.
Oh wow,
So
already.
yeah, I mean, it's the benefit of it only being like me, you, and reading out bills at the moment. um. So final thoughts from Bill. This felt like it could have been a movie. The combination of tension, social commentary, and character moments was delivered excellently. I'm tickled by the tabloid saying Doctor Who isn't woke anymore when this season has been some of the most woke political commentary we've gotten in ages. This episode has flaws, but compared to the overall quality on the first viewing, because that's all he had time for, they very much feel like nitpicks. Yeah. Aaron, your final thoughts.
Hmm. Well, like I said, we saw the nurse in the ambulance. So obviously, his twist again shows up. I also
Mm-hmm.
like the fact that there's a theme of fatherhood running through these first three episodes. Where we see the doctor talk to Captain Poppy about like parents and everything. We see
Mm.
him mention how he was a father at one point because he talks about his granddaughter and where he lived with her back
Yeah.
in the 60s. And then, of course, now we run into the whole fatherhood thing too with Vader and his daughter. So, and specifically, it's a father and daughter.
Mm.
Or not NPCs, but father and daughter characters that we are
Yeah.
confronted with here. So there's very obviously a father daughter thing going on. Um,
Mm.
which also kind of hints that possibly maybe Ruby is the doctor's daughter and possibly Susan's
Mm.
mother. Who knows?
Mm.
That'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, I thought that this was a good episode. I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I think there was just something that didn't quite fit together for me. So, I didn't really like
Mm.
Splice. It did feel like they were trying to put in a lot of different messages, and I don't think they were able to like fit everything in very not appropriately, but like they weren't able to fit everything in like as precisely as they could have if they had just
Mm.
played carved out a few of those themes, progressive themes, and saved them for other episodes. So they're trying to say a lot in this episode, I should say.
Mm.
Yep, that's it for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this was far and away of the three we're covering today. This is my favorite, like hands down, no notes by comparison. Just like this is again more evidence that when you give Moffat time and he only has to do like one episode, he can produce very good stuff. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, and it is still very much a Chibnall episode. Very much a Moffat episode. But, it's stuff that he hasn't done in this particular way, because I think when I've worded it other ways, people have gotten a bit pedantic with me. Of like, yeah, there's elements of it that he has done before, like, the ambulance is all like basically chanting something over and over and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. The Anglican soldiers is a thing that he's done before. Stuff like that. But the premise is interesting. It's one of the few times I've ever thought the Doctor was legitimately in danger. Like, yeah, he's going to get out of it, but it really is a matter of how the hell is he going to get out of this? Like,
And
usually you don't think that with stuff. It's just like, oh yeah, Doctor's going to get out of it. Like, I'm here for the ride, but this was very much like all the tension building and shit was fairly well handled. Like, Splice really could have been written better, or just not there potentially, or whatever. And it will be interesting to see what happens. Apparently, especially since Verada Sethu is in this as Mundi, and she's going to be the next companion. So there's been
I didn't
there's been
realize that.
talks of like does this mean that this was foreshadowing and Mundy's coming back later? Or is this going to be a scenario of same actress, different character? Or, I mean, Moffat did joke in something that I forgot to bring up in the news stuff. There is an interview with Moffat where he was like, yeah, we're doing Clara again, and laughed it off. So I take that as more foreshadowing a companion for later rather than literally the same thing. So honestly, I'd be down for that if it happens, because Mundy is from the far-flung future and is absolutely a companion that could potentially butt heads with the Doctor occasionally, given the soldier, like Christian soldier, literally. Like, so
Wow.
there could be ways that could butt heads with the Doctor, and that would be quite interesting. If they don't, oh well, but hey, a companion from the future, I'll take it. We haven't had one of those in like a human one of those in forever, excluding like River, I guess technically. But before that, you have to go to classic. So yeah. So that's about all I've got to say on that. So moving on to ratings. And evidently Bill was a massive fan of this one. So he has given it the full 5.0. So from that, Aaron, was your score for this?
I'm debating it again. Like, I don't know if I can really give a 5.0. But I'm going to give it a very high 4.5. Above Devil's Chord 4.5 if it matters, but yeah. So, but there's just something that just doesn't click with me for the episode.
Yeah, that's fine.
Also,
Yeah, that's understandable.
I didn't realize that the one who plays Mundy is actually going to be the next companion. I guess I've not been paying attention when we've done the news. And then I'm like, why is this still being mentioned? But I keep forgetting that they're filming the next, like, the 2024 season already.
Yeah.
It's so strange to see them filming so quickly.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I did not necessarily think I would, but I am agreeing with Bill, and I am actually going to give this a 5.0 as well. It's one of those it's absolutely perfect 5.0s, which, I mean, like, the only reason I give 5.0s at all is that the others years back convinced me. It's not that it's perfection, it's that it's your criticisms of it, you can basically overlook to the quality of it. Whereas there have been some things that have been brought down by, like, it's otherwise mostly flawless, but it's just missing that extra oomph to push it up all the way. But in any case, with two 5.0s and a 4.5, we'll see what Matt gives it next week or whenever he has time to do a review of Shame. That puts it at a 4.83. So definitely easily, by virtue of the other two being the same, the highest of what we have so far. So at a 4.83, that puts it at roughly, this is high, at roughly 17
Wow.
out of 472 things reviewed.
Really? Holy
My
cow.
God, that is...
Jeez. That's shot
That's
right
what two
up.
5.0s will get you. I mean, again, we'll see
Jeez.
what Matt gives it. It might move up, it might move down. We'll see. But at the moment, it is on par with not that much, because there is not many. Oh, like, it's literally on par with 3 other things, so I will bother to list them all. The Fifth Doctor Adventures Big Finish story, The Lost Resort, which is very good, so that's understandable that it's also this high. The Hand of Fear and School Reunion. So definitely in good company. And for the hell of it, since this is the last one we're covering, it is better than The Armageddon Factor, Dark Water, Death in Heaven, The Robots of Death, Tooth and Claw, The Macro Terror, Time Heist, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, Genesis of the Daleks, Pyramid of Mars, and Power of the Doctor. Wow, that is very high.
Wow, yeah.
And it is not as good as Doctor Who and the Silurians, aka the first appearance of the Silurians, and An Unearthly Child minus the Tribe of Gum. Wow. So there you go.
Jeez.
A sharp contrast in the episodes listed, but there was nothing below 200 this episode from what I recall, given that the others were 4.38. So yeah, even they were in the single digits. Oh, sorry, not single digits. They were in the 2 digits rather than 3. So all of them above, all of them in the good to great range.
Wow.
So not too bad a start.
Yeah, this is... I'm pleasantly surprised with what Disney... Well, I don't think they've had a direct hand in everything. I can see them kind of subtly shifting some of the focus of the episodes or sliding in this and that and whatnot, but I'm pleasantly surprised with the quality of the show right now.
But in any case, that does us for this week. So if you want to give us a follow on Twitter, you can find us at, or X or whatever the hell you want to call it, at Unearthly Pod. You can find us on YouTube at Unearthly Podcast. You can listen to us live every week, or at least the weeks we can manage to get together. Scheduling is kind of hell when you like, life happens, so that's why we end up doing stuff like this. You can find us at Unearthly Podcast on Twitch. We don't have the Patreon anymore, but that came to mind for some reason.
We should probably redo our end title card here then.
Yeah, and Facebook at Unearthly Podcast as well. So next time, we continue the new season of Doctor Who and the RTD 2.0 era with 73 Yards, written by Russell T Davies again, and starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, possibly. I'm very wary that this is probably going to be a Dr. Light episode, so he might not be in it much. And Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. We will see you next time.